When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I grew older, I set aside childish ways. Corinthians 13:11. In the distant future, mankind has spread into the stars and found it is not alone. Within the cluster of planets known as the Silrain Heart, many races strive for survival or supremacy. But throughout this array of planets, societies, and cultures, each has one thing in common. The crucibles. Scattered throughout the galaxy, each moon-sized structure contains a core of raw sorium, a form of mysterious energy used to power ships, cities, and sometimes the warping of the fabric of reality itself. Beings who can do this have been given a name: Espers. The power of God has been granted to God's children. It is a time of terror. It is a time of wonder. It is the time of Esper Genesis.
Man, I don't know how anyone can listen to that and not get hyped up. I am hyped up, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is looking forward to the stream tonight as much as I am. Welcome, Arvanauts, to a July 26, 2019 stream. It is Friday night. It's about 9:20 p.m. Eastern. We apologize that we're getting started later tonight. I got home just in time to get started because I was running late from family stuff, and then we had some tech problems with internet issues and things like that. But we all got them from some of the players, but we got it all sorted out, we think. And knock on wood, and we are ready to bring you day 28 of Esper Genesis, which we are calling Reunions and Revelations. This is, of course, officially sponsored by Alligator Alley Entertainment, who are wonderful people that I work with all the time, and I'm going to have more to say about that part of things in just a minute. Before I get there, I do want to remind everybody about ways to support the stream. If you have not done so already, please follow the channel. That is always enormously helpful. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to check out the YouTube with !ArvTube, where you can see past broadcasts of this and many other campaigns and streams that we've got on here. !ArvCord will get you over to my Discord channel, and that continues to rise steadily in membership. So continue to, help us out and go over there and hang out with us in between streams, because it's always a fun place and always happening, my Discord server. !Arv Tweets will get you over to my Twitter. Only 8 followers away from 1,000. A probably meaningless milestone, but still, I think it's kind of cool. Only took me like 10 years plus to get there, but anyway. So that is Arv Tweets. An !Tweet will let you retweet this stream. Please do that. as we try to broaden out to beyond just the Twitch community and continually bring more people in. And remember, you can always find out more details about all of this at arvineleron.com, which is the official website for this channel. Moving on to financial ways that you can support us, !ARV shop. You can get merchandise for Infinity and Beyond, for Adventures in Middle-earth, and hopefully soon for Esper Genesis as well. So you can check us out over there, and that does go to support the channel. The Patreon, currently sitting at $3.29, !ARV Treon for that. You can get inspirations to help the players. You can do a bunch of other things, including getting professional critiques of your writing, epic poems, character backgrounds written about you, a whole bunch of other things like that, copies of my band's albums and so forth, that through !ARV Treon. And last but certainly not least, that sub button, which Write, Teach, Play, someone who's rather familiar to all of us, was kind enough to resub. That is also important. We're sitting right now at about 57 subs, I believe. So please consider jumping on board and subbing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. That allows you to also to inspire the players and gets you those custom emotes and sub badges and all that good stuff. Tonight we have got Esper Genesis. On Saturday evening, I will be doing the mini marathon session of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. And then on Tuesday at noon, we will have our rescheduled Adventures in Middle-earth session. That campaign is really hopping as well. And then I will have a shortened episode of Pen and Pixels over in GOG. I'll be playing some Pathfinder Kingmaker. That is going to be, and that will be happening again from 4 to 6 p.m. as opposed to 7 p.m. Eastern, because after that show is over, I am heading out with the family to Indianapolis. We are driving out for Gen Con, which is coming up this coming week. I'm very excited about it. I am a member, as always, of the Writers' Symposium there. I've been doing that for many years. I'll be doing panels and talks. I'm actually really excited because a lot of the panels that I'm on and talks that I'm giving are sold out. We have a story building panel that I do about game mastering and writing and the connections between them, and there's 90 tickets for that, and they're all sold out already, which is really awesome. So even the Forbidden Library, which is going to be a big thing, of course, a week from tomorrow, next Saturday, not tomorrow, but the week from then, that is going to be the end of the Forbidden Library trilogy in front of a live audience, and we have 70 tickets sold for that already too. So we got a lot of people that are checking out our things, and that's awesome. Gen Con is going to be a lot of fun and busy, and so I'm going to be there next week, and that means that Friday's stream is very unlikely. I would say very unlikely to happen. We will, however, be doing a stream on Saturday evening, and that will be the live stream of that particular adventure, that particular event. So we will be trying to live stream it. Again, it's always a little bit of a challenge because I have to be managing the audience and, of course, most importantly, managing the players, but we're going to try to live stream it if we possibly can on that Saturday, and then I'll be coming back on the Monday afterwards, and so my normal Tuesday streams starting in August should be relatively normal. But basically what I'm saying is I've got one set of streams after tomorrow. I've got Tuesday stream, and then the week after that's going to be a little bit up in the air because of being away at Gen Con, and then I'm back, and then the last month of summer is going to be some fun streaming and a lot of other cool stuff as well. So we got the car flag to fly on the way from Detroit to Indy. I got it. Oh, I got the car flag. Nice, nice, nice. Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, well, of course, you guys don't have to come as far. I mean, I'm the insane guy that drives all the way from the East Coast, which is kind of crazy go nuts talk, but that's okay. Yes, Garlic Tofu will be there. And the last thing I wanted to mention very quickly about all that is that I will have two things that I am talking about at Gen Con that relates to me specifically. I do have a project that I can't talk about yet, but more details about that are going to be coming up soon. I may or may not be announcing some aspects of that at Gen Con, but the ones that are most important are going to be, of course, Icarus for both Garlic Tofu and Ballsteg, who are here. Icarus, many of you who were kind enough to support that. We will be talking about that. We'll be handing out a lot of swag. We'd love to get people supporting us on the backer kit so that they can pre-order this. The artwork, the inks are just about finished for Jelinek. We have I think 3 pages or 4 pages left of those, and then the rest of the colors to finish up. So we've made great progress, and art is moving along at a great rate. And so there's that. And then the other one is the Forbidden Library, which should be done by the end of the month. It should be printed by the end of the month, and we will certainly have it in the hands of everyone by early to mid-September. So we are closing in as well on having the print versions of Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, which is super exciting. So a lot of stuff going on. However, tonight, we are dealing with the return, the long-awaited return. It's been over a month, actually, of the incredible Esper Genesis. And so I am going to unmute myself so the folks know that we are ready to go, and then I'm going to unmute them as I usually do. And last but certainly not least, dun 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 dun, we will head over there to see 3 out of 4 members of this fine crew as we have returned to the world of Esper Genesis. And I will start, as I usually do, with the gentleman all the way to the... Oh my God, Durable with a resub. What's up? Hi, Durable. I can't even get through
all
it
the way to my... Oh my
instantaneous. God. What's up, Durable? Thank you so much for the resub, dude. I appreciate it. I'm going to start, of course, as I usually do, by introducing the gentleman all the way to the left of your screen. One apology I want to make for everyone here. I just got progressive eyeglass lenses for the first time. And oh my God, are these weird. I have pretty much grown up my whole life with single vision glasses. And so having to look through the right part of the lens. So if you see me doing weird stuff like this, or like I'm not having a seizure, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell I do to actually see. Because theoretically, this should mean I don't have to constantly be switching off my distance glasses with reading glasses. But in practice, it means that I have to find where the sweet spot is. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that person over on the far left is Mr. Johnny Pittman, if I'm not mistaken. So, what's going on, Johnny?
Who?
How is it? Yeah, I know. Damn
What,
it!
huh?
It's actually.
Are you actually reading correctly? Can you actually see my name?
Yes, of course. Your name is Saramis, the Saracen of something. No. What's up, Johnny? How are you? How's life, the universe, and everything, sir? And who are you playing?
I am good. It is Friday in California. It's sunny and nice, and the weather's not too bad, so I'm pretty happy about that.
True statements. Yes,
they are nice. It's been nice weather, hasn't it? It's been relatively nice in comparison to what I would usually expect around this time. So, let's see. What else is going on with me? Not too terribly much right now. Started a new show over on Unmade Gaming's channel on Monday, playing Scum and Villainy. So a competitive space opera game. Hey. That's actually a lot of fun. But yeah, not much else going on right now. I will be playing Aramis, the Ashen Forged Melder, who has a taste for the drink and is not sure what Sleepwell's doing ever. And yeah, there's this thing about dad, and I'm really concerned. I'm not sure, with a kid with a bomb and his dad at the same time. Yeah. Anyways,
I saw that Disney movie.
I was gonna say a kid with a bomb and his dad. Yeah, exactly. It's the new hype. By the way, I have to say just very quickly. First of all, it's a pleasure, of course, to have Johnny with us as always, and you're going to be seeing more of Johnny on this channel in very soon. We can't talk about the details yet, but there's stuff coming down the pike. I have to say, I've been reading Sal and Gabby Breaks the Universe with my daughter, and thoroughly enjoying it. It really, really is a wonderful book, and I'm not just saying that because Carlos is a friend and happens to be playing with us. It's really good, so I highly recommend it. But I'm cracking up at all the references that you're able to make to Disney things with no problem, because I'm just like, I can imagine, I can't just be like dropping names like, oh, Spider-Man and blah 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 and Mickey Mouse and all this, but you're just like, yeah, someone owns my imprint. Like, you're just throwing this stuff out there. It was right. Oh my God, it's so funny. Just like wham. I know. Anyway, it was cracking me up.
The trade-off though is that I can't curse like at all. Like if you saw the remake for It and you saw how those little middle schoolers had the filthiest mouths in the universe, because like that's what all middle schoolers have, like I can't use any of that because it's Disney, so I had to make up all my own curses.
Yeah, they were good though. It helped that you could also retreat into awesome Spanish at times, like things that seemed to fit. In case people are curious, you should find out what the definition of the word cucaracha is, because it's funny and very appropriate. Anyway, but I just cracked me up because, man, Disney. But it's always a pleasure to have Johnny with us. Kat Rambo is not with us tonight because she is at a conference, and July and August both are always sort of difficult in that regard. But we should be back with the full crew back in August. This is not because anyone is like, oh man, I don't want to play with those people. Everyone wants to play, but we're all busy bees, and we're all sort of doing stuff. So that's why we had to kind of work things around. So Kat will be back with us, but normally, of course, Kat is playing Petrasinus with a very large hammer, and she also, of course, now plays on Young Turtle on our Hearts of Wulin game on Monday, one Monday a month, which has been a lot of fun too. So and also does a class from her Rambo Academy for Wayward Writers on my channel too. So You get a lot of Cat Rambo, but you will not get her for Esper Genesis today, unfortunately. But hope everything is well with Cat, and we will see her again next month. Moving along to someone who is with us and back from his, just for a moment, pretty much, from his triumphant world tour of Sal and Gavi, etc., is good guy and good player, Carlos Hernandez. Carlos, how's life in the universe with you, sir? How's everything going on your end, and who are you playing?
Well, so first, let me start by congratulating you, sir, on your successful Kickstarter. I haven't seen you.
Oh yes,
thank you. Yes, that was a great pleasure, and you were a definite boost in that regard at Origins. So I appreciate that. But yes,
yeah, looking forward to it. But yeah, congratulations. That was a big, it was like a little bit of a nail biter there, touch and go for a little bit. But
it was a huge rally at the end. Yeah, and Johnny was a part of that, by the way. Johnny and Tren, and then of course Pyron, Jade, and Terry Tunes, who play in several of my other campaigns. That last sort of push really mattered, and of course everyone just pulled together. The Arvanauts were amazing, and so my author friends were amazing. So yes, so thank you. I appreciate that, and we're very excited. So
yeah. But congratulations. I am looking forward to getting my copy. Oh, things are great here. So I've been going to I did a camp at Symphony Space where I came and talked to all these genius kids who were just reading at level 9,000. It's amazing. And so, I think I'm going to do the summer camp in a couple of weeks where I'm going there. I'm going to Worldcon in Dublin in a couple of weeks. And so, just living La Vida Loca. Oh, and my wife, my genius wife's novella from Tor.com just came out, I think 2 days ago.
I saw that.
Yeah. And so Desdemona in the Deep, I'm biased, but it is, quite possibly the greatest work of literature ever written. It is,
reasonable.
I have a PhD. I get to say shit. So,
you have the
it entitles you to grandiose statements.
Grad school,
Yeah, that's why we do it. We did it not for the glamour and the glory. We do it so that we can actually make grandiose statements and then be like, I got a doctorate. What's up?
That's right.
That's funny.
So anyway, but it is a great read, and also the audiobook came out, and she's an audiobook narrator, much like you, Zach. She does a lot of audio work, and so, I'm really, really excited about it, and we're gonna go to Westerly, Rhode Island, where we're throwing a masquerade ball. Basically, we're having a gentry masquerade. We're all dressing up like goblins and koboldkin and fairy, fae folk of all types, and we're going to have a big party there to celebrate the release of her book, because her book is all about kobolds and fairy and such.
That is so awesome.
It really is cool. By the way, that cover is dynamite, incidentally.
It's great, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's really dynamite. Claire is a really, really nice person, by the way, who I've had the chance to meet several times, and it's super cool. As part of this writer power couple, with everybody just being I just do all these things, and it's really cool that both of them have had such great success with this. Ooh, look at that.
This is the mask. This is the mask of Desdemona in the Deep. This is the three worlds crown, basically. There's a horn for each of the three worlds, which is the human world, the fae world, and the goblin world. And so this is what the cover looks like, except that it doesn't have my ugly mug on it.
It's actually just a picture of Carlos. It's just
Desdemona in the Deep.
It works really well. No, I'm really, really happy to see that. And like I said, just some really, really good things coming out from good people as of late. So that's awesome. Who are you playing today, sir?
I am playing the Valna Ludicu Sleepwell, who is going to go through some Ludicu things today, I think, and so
ludicrous.
And so you'll fill people into the backstory, but basically I have been filling my diaper for a month to find out what has actually happened here, where it's just it's my dad, but he's cyber eyes, which is not my dad. What happened to my dad?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm doing this episode.
It's going to be
filling
good.
Your diaper?
I got it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
building up some excitement and awesomeness.
Man. This is what it's like. We are all filling up our diapers today. I don't know where we're going with
yes.
that. But anyway.
Hey guys, you know what? You have a great show. I'll see you next time.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm very excited to have there's gonna be a lot going on to Ludoku and in fact for the whole crew, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but not before we speak to that gentleman who, when last heard, was doing the judge in what was honestly I had an absolute so much fun doing our vocalist last time with Apollo Justice Ace Attorney and with Zach doing the judge. It was a blast. And I really was having fun with it. So everyone knows Zach from that. But for those who may not know you yet, who the hell are you, sir? And how's life been with you, Zach? And who are you playing?
I am Zach Clay. I will be playing Cosmoritis, a Bellare hunter. On the interwebs, I have my own stream where I play a lot of Minecraft and World of Warcraft, all the crafting games that are not actually about crafts, that are like in the real life, but just, fantasy crafts.
Sure.
And then I also do voice acting and audiobooks and other things. I'm a student. I'm a teacher. I am the universe. And that is, I would say, the best description of Zach Clay that you could get.
I am the face of CoverGirl.
I am the face of Coverboy.
I am the walrus. Cuckoo.
But yeah, I'm playing Cosmoritis. Most importantly, I'm playing Cosmoritis, a Bellare hunter, otherwise known as Starboy. We never forget you, Louise / Zarina. We never forget. We stand. And we'll see what happens in the Hyperlands tonight, and I'm excited to get some either some long range sniping going on or some close range charismatic conversation.
Yes, and you might get a chance for both. Although now I have this image of you doing a long-range charisma snipe, just like, want to hear a joke?
I shoot you with persuasion.
I know, just like, charm. Oh, I was just charmed, but from a distance. Anyway, but it's a great pleasure to have this group back, and let us get into it, folks. I'm going to fire up some music and then talk a little bit about what happened in our last session. And people, excuse me, maybe justified in not remembering everything because it's been literally over a month since our live Origins session, during which some pretty crazy stuff went down. So it was pretty nuts. Let's fire up some ominous music. This time reflected as Forbidden Galaxy, I think. Make sure that it's playing. I think it is. There we go. Let me know if it's too loud and if it's overwhelming voices or not, and I shall adjust accordingly. All right. So here is where things stand. The party over the last few sessions has been dealing with one problem that they started with, which was how to get their awesome ship, the Hyperlance, repaired so that they can use it to do other things and keep it away from those who wanted to use the Hyperlance for their own nefarious purposes. That was how things started. But it started that way and it didn't end that way. To do this, they went to Pelseros, a small space station in the, as some people describe it, the armpit of the Silrain Arc, where people basically ask no questions and give fewer answers. And they went here in large part, first of all, because their ship was damaged and they couldn't go, they didn't have a lot of options. But secondly, because the person who was with them, Rona, had some possible contacts there, including one, Spindra, who was supposed to be a very good mechanic, ship mechanic who wouldn't ask many questions. So they ended up going to Pelseros. They helped Spindra out of a sort of sticky situation, and she informed them that indeed she could help them, but they would have to help her to gather the resources that she needed from her former ship, the Tangrel. Although the party was not 100% sure about whether they could go along and trust her, they decided that they would take a shot. And maybe for the first portion of this adventure, we're sort of regretting that decision because there were certainly problems that popped up almost immediately, mostly in the form of these terrifying creatures called Scourge Kanasi that had killed most of the original crew of the Tangrel. They managed to, however, defeat the Scourge Kanasi, get the Tangrel running again, which was a good thing because Spindra, in the meantime, had essentially abandoned them there. We'll get back to that in just a second. They went off to find basically some place where they could get the Tangrel fixed in some way, but also where they could gather information about what it was that was actually happening. And as they went to this place, they ended up finding what was essentially a small artificial moon that turned out to be a base that was a cover for a criminal organization called the Shadow Technocracy, a very powerful organization which has its tendrils in many places within the Silrain Arc. They also managed to piss off said Shadow Technocracy, and although they managed to get the things that they needed for the Tangirl and presumably the Hyperlance, they also got the Shadow Technocracy somewhat on their tail. While they were on that moon, however, Sleepwell was able to track down this new Alfred. Alfred is the AI that was supposed to connect in some way with the Hyperlance. But this Alfred was different from that Alfred in that it was extremely dangerous, like the other Alfred, but also seemed to be some kind of weird hybrid mix between both an AI and a Kanasi, essentially as if someone had combined these together in ways that are clearly unnatural. So Sleepwell being Sleepwell, he decided to essentially adopt said Alfred, much to the consternation of Aramis and several others in the crew, I think I could say. They ended up taking off and flying back so they could go back to Pelseros, originally to get revenge on Spindra. But when they arrived at Pelseros, they found that circumstances had somewhat changed. Pelseros was now somewhat on the lookout for them, and there were apparently agents, perhaps of the Shadow Technocracy, that were trying to track them down because they were really angry at them because of what happened at the space station, at the moon, and because they really wanted, dibs on this Hyperlance that they're still trying to seek. So the party ended up trying to find Spindra, who might be able to give them some answers. While they were doing this, they ran into an information broker whose name was, at least initially, Canero Praxis. What they ended up discovering, though, is that Canero Praxis was not exactly who he seemed, by his own admission. Canero Praxis ended up telling them that he was actually none other than a character called Abraxas, who was a person that had been basically worked for a while for a large corporation called the Zephyr Corporation, and then had been basically burned. I'm loving all of that, by the way. And then were basically burned by some contacts within the Zephyr Corporation. He wanted revenge, but more importantly, he knew that the Zephyr Corporation is in bed with the Shadow Technocracy, and that they're working on something big which is extremely dangerous, something which could have a real effect on the Silrain Arc, not just the specific individuals like the party and the people around them. And so he asked the party, basically, he said that he would give them information on where they could find Spindra if they were willing to gather information for him about this place, basically this base that they're going to be going to, called the Hespera Space Station, in which there are supposedly experiments taking place, experiments that might, for example, lead one to connect an AI like an Alfred with a Scourge Kadasi. And so that was of interest to the party as well. So the party is going to do that, but the party had one problem that remained, and that was that they had two issues to deal with. One, they discovered while looking for Spindra a group of oppressed workers, essentially, called the Fenarg, who made a connection with them, and in particular Sleepwell, and basically revealed that they were enslaved, oppressed, and that either people on Pelseros didn't know about this, or basically knew about it but kind of didn't talk much about it because they didn't know what else they could do. Sleepwell and the rest of the party did not sit well with them, and so they decided that they had to free the Fenarg. But they also had to deal with the problem of the Shadow Technocracy, and several representatives of the Shadow Technocracy had taken over the Hyperlance and knocked out Rona in the interim. So the party ends up coming back up, going to the ship. They end up gathering a bunch of information and resources, and they essentially try to create a revolt against the Shadow Technocracy, which was trying to take over the space station. That revolt is ongoing, although it may or may not be successful. It seems like the popular revolt, seems to be doing its job, and the party managed to sneak its way into the Hyperlance to try to get their ship back and to rescue Rona if they possibly could. Going into the main bridge of the ship, they ended up breaking through, or hacking the door, I believe is what ended up happening, and found in the bridge room two people. Rona, first of all, sitting slumped over, knocked out still at her chair on the left side. And on the right-hand side, a figure that seemed very familiar, with implants, cybernetic implants, and the like. And yet, as that figure turned around, it was very clearly a Volna, and not just any Volna, but someone very familiar to Sleepwell. It was, in fact, Sleepwell's own father, a character that had basically gathered information about his son. Sleepwell basically said that he had been on and this is not talking out of school yet, had basically said that he had been, he wanted to basically swear his family off, that they had done something terrible to his mentor, and so he had essentially run from them. Now it appears that his father has found him, or he's found his father, but terribly changed, and not at all like what he would have expected. So I apologize for this rather long backstory, but I needed to do that because it's been over a month, and we had a whole hell of a lot that happened. And so as I now hand things back over to the party, Sleepwell's father, who has not yet identified himself, Sleepwell, of course, knows his name, but the rest of the party doesn't know it, other than to say that he is Sleepwell's father, is looking at him. Sleepwell is looking back at them, and the party is sort of staring, watching. And now I hand things back over to the party. What do you want to do?
Immediately, I just lean forward and say, "What happened to you?"
And there's a sort of pause, and then his head tilts a little bit. I should describe, by the way, that the cybernetic enhancement that we're talking about is, so he has the same Volna face of your father, and the right-hand side of his face is more or less the same as what it used to be. But the left-hand side of his face, particularly over his left eye, has some cybernetic implant with a red, basically almost like a shield of some kind, which is constantly zipping about. There's almost like what looks like a little laser light playing out from behind it, and so it's occasionally kind of blinding. So every so often you kind of blink a little bit as it's kind of passing over your face. And he says, as he responds to you, kind of tilts his head and then says, "Much has happened, my son. Much has happened since we spoke. I have become in some ways better now that I know who I am, or who I was really meant to be. I will talk more about myself and what has happened, but first, I wish to know what you intend to do here. Your little rebellion continues out there, and it seems to be unabated and growing in intensity. This is a concern for us." Now, his voice, Sleepwell, is gravelly. It's, I would say, a little weaker isn't the right term, but it sounds mechanical a little bit, like it's been maybe mechanically altered or adjusted in some way. As you look more, you can see that much of the right side of his body seems to be, it's hard to tell because some of he's wearing armor too, but seems to have sort of metal components and portions kind of over portions of his arm. And his right leg, you're not 100% sure if that's his leg or if that is something which has been a cybernetically replaced version of him. It sort of sounds like your father's voice, but in a computerized nightmare.
So, I immediately, I just kind of like take one step back and I say, well, before we talk about those things, I think some introductions are in order. I have lots of new friends to introduce you to, Papa. Let me tell you about them. But so I turn back to everybody now, and my face is like this, going, "Yeah, I don't know what's happening." Yeah. And so I kind of gesture back and I say, "The man in front of you is Grimek Fangsink. He is my father. He is a wounded war veteran. He was engaged in many ferocious battles in the name of my family's tribe, and basically has entered into his retirement, proud of the fact that he was strong in mind and body all his days." And now I do turn back to them, without the slightest augmentation of technology, Dad. Like most Valna, you think technology is anathema. You and the rest of my so-called family ravened my mentor because of this. And then I turn back to everybody. In case you don't know, in my culture, technology is somewhat verboten, especially in some sects. And so someone like myself, who has an aptitude and a love of engineering, we don't often get to exercise it. But I had a mentor who meant everything to me and who taught me basically who I could be. His name was Wari Sleepwell, and Wari basically taught me how to be a doctor, at least get me started on the right track. And he's the one who was there when my Esper powers awoke, and he was the one who taught me to be the engineer that I could. And because of that, he was found guilty of corrupting the youth, me. And the punishment for that, if he's found guilty, which he was, is death by ravening. You remember that, Dad, right? You remember how you ravened Wari Sleepo, you and Mom and Lamakai and Saffron. You ripped him apart. You ate him. You remember how you ate my mentor, Dad?
He kind of stares for a minute, the laser light kind of playing back and forth over your face, and then he says, "The names you speak have some resonance for me, but they are as through a veil darkly. They were from my past, and many of these things you discuss are of no meaning now. I think there was a time when perhaps you might have been angry at my previous form, but that was no longer who I am. I have become greater than that, my son. Better, stronger, and far, far more knowledgeable of the world. The universe awaits. I was blinded by prejudice. I suppose I would say, sorry, but you are speaking of someone who no longer exists." And his eye kind of, as his laser clicks over, there's kind of a zzz, zzz, zzz. You can kind of hear the sound of something mechanical moving behind it. He turns away from you for a minute with his arms folded and looks up at the vid screen where the rebellion continues, and he says, "I remember the name Gremak Fangsink, but that is not my name now. I am the 33rd Conjunction. And and we are gathering, my son. All of us." Now, if anyone is curious, I will happily take a lore/history check if you want to find out a little bit about the hell is the 33rd Conjunction.
You're damn right.
Yeah, I know. I'm rolling the shit out of my dice right now.
I'm sorry, Sleep Well, but your dad just joined the Borg. It's not good.
He says
How
resistance
about
is
a
futile.
19?
All right, I am impressed with the 19.
How about a 4?
Less impressed with that. You're like, he's a Borg, right? Like that's like, no.
I got a mediocre 12.
12. All right. So Kaz and Sleepwell, you don't have the faintest idea what the hell a conjunction, the 33rd Conjunction is, but Aramis, you actually do remember having heard something of this before. There is a theory that exists within the Silrain arc, and it is one that is well known to Ashenforged in particular because of the nature of the way that you were created. That eventually, all of the different races and species that exist within the Silrain arc will begin to, as it is said, gather together. They will form new species. They will create new kinds of creatures and new kinds of cultures, and that eventually they will leave behind the kind of petty rivalries and bigotries that, encompassed them before. Essentially what I'm saying, Aramis, is this is a goddamn cult. At least from your point of view, right? It's a group of people that think that what we need to do is accelerate the typical evolutionary process, like just put them all together real fast. But the legends of the conjunctions and the development of the conjunctions was something that you have not heard about for a very long time. And you certainly haven't heard anyone being like, hey, guess what, guys? There's a conjunction coming. Like, what? But a conjunction, remember, not the grammatical term, the conjunction is basically a series of events or things which are coming together. This is what this refers to, you think. But it's like someone just, in our world, made reference to, hey guys, guess what happens when the Zoroastrian something or other comes back? Like, it's something which has some faint resonance in history, but it doesn't have a lot of current kind of cachet. So you remember this a little bit, but it's odd for sure.
What you're saying is that this guy is talking jumbo bullshit.
Yeah, although it's definitely stuff you've heard before that had prominence in certain circles, but not certainly sane ones from your understanding.
All right, I have one final question then. Historically, how much damage has the conjunction cultists done in the past?
Well, that's an interesting question. Thanks, by the way, Prince Justin. Good to see you, and thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. They haven't done any damage because at least not openly any damage, because everyone's always thought of them as this, like, to use an example, currently a QAnon, like, random, like, what is this kind of group, type of thing. A bunch of conspiracy theorists and, people that kind of semi-insane people that don't really do anything together. However, the implications of what they've suggested, which is people need to be brought together, even against their will, to create this series of conjunctions, that could be real dangerous if anyone actually ever had the resources and the organization to do it.
Is there any element or is there any significance that I can tell from all of this sort of like mumbo jumbo lore that's like stuck in my head about the conjunction? Is there any significance to being the 33rd conjunction?
Make another history check for me, please.
History or lore?
Sorry, lore. Beg your pardon.
Okay.
Also, hi, Echo.
I will take a 17.
You don't know. You don't think so, but you know that the only thing you know is that every time a conjunction happens, you know that it's supposed to have like significance to them, but like what the numbering is, like 2, 5, 75, 70 million. I mean, you don't know about that. You just know that every time it happens, it's supposed to be a moment of joy for these people.
So Aramis turns to Kaz and whispers under his breath as this is all going on. Does crazy run in the family?
I don't know.
If it does, we're in trouble.
Oh, I got some big Jeff Goldblum vibes. Life finds a way.
Oh man, our boy Jeff.
Okay, I think I would be right in saying that myself, Aramis, and Petra all look at Sleepwell like, what the hell is going on? What do you want us to do?
So, I just kind of poor Sleepwell, he's just basically like all the way flipped out. So he turns around, he takes a couple steps forward toward his former dad, and he says, "Where's Mom?"
And there's sort of a moment of quiet and silence, and then he returns to you, sort of turns around again, the laser light still playing. I just sent you something in Zoom. I just want to confirm. Can you just be like,
sorry, yeah. 1 second.
What?
That's correct.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So he turns back and he says, "You speak of the one that is called Tofinara Fangsink. Yes.
The one who's called Tofinara. Yeah. Mom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Woman you married. Great warrior. Remember Mom?
And there's a pause, and his head kind of sort of tilts a little bit as if he's trying to remember something. And you hear the as the lasers going around. And then I remember there was someone of that name, yes, and had significance to you, and I suppose to me. But that life is beyond me now, my son. He sort of...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. He sort of looks and he turns around and he walks over. Now, he doesn't like do this in a threatening way, but he walks over. Let me sort of position him. So he was basically standing here, right? And he walks up to the bridge, to the kind of the main screen where he was looking at the vid streams up top, looking at the rebellion going on outside. And he hovers his hand over the left hand, the one that's now more machine than man, more mechanical than biological, and he kind of hovers his claw, really this cybernetic claw, over the screen, over the console, and without touching it, you can see all of you can see little bits of blue like energies sort of darting back and forth from the console and his hand, and you can see something flash on the front of the main Hyperlance kind of holographic globe, if you remember, that they're able to sort of use to control. Something flashes up on it, and you can see a picture of an image of your mother, Sleepwell. She seems to be, it's not clear where, but she seems to be in some kind of maybe a holding cell. You can see some bright white light on her face. She looks as if she has been hurt, perhaps beaten, damaged, cut, and you sort of see her kind of staring up at the light, kind of looking up with a sort of fierce expression that you remember, kind of with a snarl. There's no sound, it's just sort of the image of her. And then that fades and is replaced with the image of Lamalki, Fangsink, who, and you need, just very quickly, I need to remember, Lamalki was, remind me again, Carlos?
Lamalkai. I always think it was pronounced Lamalkai, but that's the eldest sister.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure. Good. So, yes. And you see Lamalkai is, you can see, has a kind of cloth over the bottom of her face, and she seems to be on some desert planet, perhaps, walking along this bright red sand, her eyes kind of scanning the horizon. She does not look hurt, but she does look as if she's kind of isolated and alone, and she's kind of, you can just see the image of her kind of trudging through this sort of sand, looking around her. And then that image also fades, and he turns away from the screen and looks back at you, and there is maybe the faintest hint of a smile on his face, and he says, "So, now you have seen these phantasms, shadows of the past. This is the last that I knew of them, the one you call your mother and the one that you call your sister. They are, as you can see, still living, or at least the last I knew they were."
When was that?
And he says, he thinks, and then goes, "Before." You don't think he's trying to play coy. Like, it almost feels like that's just, he's, before. And he says, "Do you know what it is like, my son, to realize potential?"
I mean, that's kind of what I was doing when I was studying hard to be a doctor and an engineer. Before you ate my mentor. Remember, you ate my mentor. But like, you hated technology. how did this happen to you? Did somebody come visiting and maybe forcibly implant some things in you, Daddy?
So he walks back to his seat, and all of you notice that as he walks, Redlear, the mentor was tasty. As he walks back over to his seat, there is a great weight every time his left foot. So his, again, the left side of his body is the one that is. Did I say left or right? I think I said
Left.
I think you meant left.
Left.
Yeah.
I think left was affected, right? So the left side of his body, every time he takes a step with his left foot, the floor of the bridge shudders slightly, like he's just like kind of there's a solidity to it, and then of course his normal Volna paw sort of lands with the right side of his body, and he goes over and then he sits rather stiffly down in the chair and stares over at the slumped over form of Rona, and he says, "The story I'm going to tell you, my son, is a story from a book. It is a story that was told to children. It does not connect to me anymore, but perhaps it will be of use to you as you understand my current revelation." And he kind of looks over and he says, "When you ran and left after this ravening you speak of, there was great anger among my people and great anger in the family. It must be said, I suppose, that I was the angriest. Your mother was deeply saddened, and your sister begged for thought, for us to take a moment and consider. But he who was," and he stops, almost like he's accessing something, "Gremak Fangsink, did not wish to wait. His son had defied him and his people, and he must be found and brought to justice and punishment. And so, I, Gremak," he sort of like, "I," pause, "Gremak, went to find you. I searched planets, ships. I stood at the tops of mountains and spoke to gurus. I traveled in the bowels of engine rooms in foul, stinking freighters, smuggling drugs from one pathetic space station to one hovel on some lost planet. I stood inside the most advanced space station systems, and I battled for wisdom on lost worlds. But I found no trace of you. You had covered your tracks well, my son. Your love for technology was, as I saw it, a weakness, and it had consumed you. Then, some months ago, I came to a place where my questions attracted notice. They found me, surrounded me, asked me my name, asked my purpose, though they must surely have already known it. They had set an ambush for me. I killed several of them, and then they killed me, or the weak part of me, the part that did not understand. When they brought me back to life, they restored me. They showed me a wider vision. Technology was not the enemy, nor was it a god to follow as you have. It is a path to enlightenment and understanding. They said that I could be brought together, made better, to work together, to advance the future. I was to be the 33rd conjunction, they said. And together, with their criminal front, the shadow technocracy. I was to work for them. I would bring some sense of order. Moreover, I would bring the future. All I had to do was abandon the past. It was brutally difficult, my son. The past was not something I wished to give. They beat it from me, ripped it from my flesh, drained it from my veins. They took all parts of me away until I was left with a single thread of consciousness floating in a void, afraid. And then they rebuilt that single thread of ego into what you see here. Once they had done this, and I was more than I had been, they said that I must find you and your companions, that you would be the answer, that you would be the path. You are to join us too, my son, as are your companions. When I left behind my old life, I left behind desire, want, hunger, anger, sadness, grief. Can you not imagine what strength there is in forgetting the past? What belonging there is in moving forward into the future and the present? I live now as something greater. If you come with me, you can become greater too. As for that who was your mother and that who was your sister, I have lost contact with them. They are not relevant to my life now. All that matters is the gathering and the conjunctions. You must be the 34th, my son.
Definitely crazy in the family.
And the laser again is Kaz and Aramis, before I jump back to Sleepwell, so you're hearing all of this. Are you just sort of waiting for cues from Sleepwell, like, do I kill him now, or do like that kind of thing?
Yep.
Or like,
I make sure that my sniper rifle is reloaded. And,
I just had this image of you like fascinating as you're like
and then I just wait. I just look at Sleepwell. Does Rona seem okay? Is Rona simply just unconscious from what I can tell?
Hard to say. Her breathing, she's breathing, but it's shallow. And she has a pretty nasty gash on the side of her head. She's still alive, but she could use some help, you think?
Okay. All right. I just turn to Sleepwell and say, all right, if we're going to do something, we have to do it now.
Whoa. Excuse me, Mr. 33rd Conjunction. I have a question.
And his laser like kind of zips over to see you.
Can I ask some questions? I mean, obviously you're going to be incorporating us into your conjunctiveness, right?
And he sort of looks at you and he says, I can still recognize sarcasm. You will be brought and made better, yes, in the conjunction.
Listen, sarcasm is the only way that I can combat all the crazy that you've given me in this conversation. I mean, I know your son. I don't always like what your son does, but this is a hard situation for him. I get that. Boy needs some time. So I have a couple questions because you've said a couple things and I'm really curious.
And
can I ask you just a couple questions?
He doesn't say, his laser eye just like zzz, but he it remains silent. So
if Sleepwell here, we refer to him as Sleepwell. If he's to be the 34th conjunction, what does that mean for us?
And he sort of pauses and then says, You will also join as conjunctions. What your numbers and paths will be is not for me to tell, for I do not know it. You are, for one thing, from different species, and thus the conjunction and gathering happens differently for you. Perhaps an Ashen-Forged and Bellare may even join together. It is an intriguing prospect. And his
Wait,
his
by-
laser like
by-
shoots back and forth, like his laser eye back and forth from you, Kaz, to you, Aramis.
By joined together, do you mean conjoined together? Like,
And he pauses and he says, "The meaning is, I think, explicit, and you have classified it as simple as possible for your limited intelligence."
Damn,
I
are you
look-
gonna let him
I-
talk to you that way?
I look at Artemis and I say, I like you, but I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just not really interested in that either. I totally get
I'm
it.
glad. I'm glad that we both understand. That's great. Do you have more questions?
I do. It's thanks. I know you had to interject there. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Should I refer to you as like the 33rd conjunction? Should I say 33, Mr. Conjunction? I mean,
His name is Grimmick.
sleep well. I am trying to talk to your dad. Dads need respect. I'm gonna show him respect because clearly, like you and him, there's what should I refer to you? Grimmack, 33rd conjunction, 33. Like I said, what's the proper way to address it?
33rd conjunction. My son's desire to hold on to his past name for me is not unexpected, but irrelevant.
Can't blame him. I mean, you're his dad. Or you were his dad. I don't even know how to look. There's sentimentality there. Give him. You understand sarcasm. Understand sentimentality, please.
I do understand what is referred to as family attachment, though as I remember it, it was not love that he felt for who I was.
How dare
Hatred,
you?
disgust, perhaps.
How dare you? It's because I loved you that I had to run. Couldn't bear to be with you when you were acting that way. Do you think I wouldn't have attacked you right back just like you would have wanted me to if I didn't love you? I fled because that was the only way we both could survive.
And he sort of shrugs and he says, "Perhaps I see that now through an opaque fog. Whatever is on that side of my past self exists in a realm I have no real access to."
I may not be, and this is Zach speaking. I may not be the best at determining this, since my species doesn't have eyes. But can I look? I want to look in his real eye and try to gauge what semblance, if any, of not humanity but volnamity his dad may still have. If there seems to be any shred of, like, especially when they are talking about these family issues, if there seems to be any like tell there.
Yep. Give me. I will ask for an insight check here.
Okie dokie.
Which is wisdom, of course.
19.
So one thing that's interesting is that, as most of us will know, most creatures in the galaxy that have a visual, a visual cortex and that have two eyes, the eyes work together. There are certain creatures where the eyes work separately, which can be awfully, disturbing for people not used to that. But most of the time, if you look left, both eyes look left, right? And this, Kaz, as someone who deals with humanoid, people, and a lot of them with eyes, just the way everyone else does. Here, it feels very much as if the laser eye is independent, and the right eye, the sort of normal eye, seems to be, just sort of acting on its own. It's not staring, but you would say that it does kind of blink and widen at times, and yet it's not clear what it's sort of widening to. It's almost as if there's a separate conversation being had that's different, let's say, than the conversation you're currently having. I'm not explaining it super well because it's a little bit hard to explain, except to say that it's as if you're watching that side of his face have a conversation with someone else in terms of body language, or someplace else, or some time else. And it's the laser eye that is more responsive to what you're actually saying at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, so I turn to Sleepwell and I say under my breath, so Sleepwell, you remember when you put on that suit and the, what were they called? I forgot already.
The Fenark?
Oh yeah, thank you, God from above. The Fenark. Sleepwell, you know how you put on that suit and the Fenard kind of took you over, and you were in this, you described yourself as being in this space where you were talking with them and you couldn't really control yourself and they were speaking through you. You know, I kind of feel like maybe that might be happening right now. So just thought you should know. I try to be very perceptive of people's intentions as a part of my line of work, but I can only do so much.
So, I mean, all of you can kind of see that Sleepwell has entered deeply into that fey euphoric feeling of like, if I die, I die. I'm just wild-eyed and, hilarious, finding everything hilarious. And it's like, there's a big difference, Starboy. See, I didn't have to die first before the Fenarg communicated through me, and they always asked permission, and I surrendered willingly, and they left. There was still my ego intact, unlike poor Dad. And so then I kind of like move around to Dad, and I go, dearly beloved, we are gathered here to say our goodbyes. Here he lies, no one knew his worth. You see, my dad, he died. And then they took his body and they used his corpse to make him into this monstrosity. Poor Dad, he's dead. But I know what he would want me to do in this kind of situation. And then I drop an EMP pulse.
Okay. So, all right. So, let's see. When you drop the EMP pulse, I also have to think about whether or not he would be paying attention. I would say he probably wouldn't notice that. So, this EMP pulse goes off. Now, there are a couple of things that happen when this occurs, and I believe the EMP pulse there's saving throws involved because it's your ability, right?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? You blitzed out a little bit.
Oh yeah, I was saying the EMP pulse was just the engineer ability, yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Because I want to see if they had a saving throw that was involved, or if there are saving throws. Bear with me as I look up an engineer.
In
slow-mo.
It's an intelligence saving throw.
That's why. Okay, I thought so. What's the DC?
The DC is me, so.
The DC is sleep well. You have to roll a sleep well on your dice.
Sleep well on a die? Oh, that's gonna be tough. Is there a number associated with sleep well that I could use?
9,000.
The 34.
16. It's my. It's past 9,000. God damn it! It's my wisdom bonus plus my proficiency bonus, right?
Yes, that'll be right. So
that would, and it's a 10 plus that, so it's 16.
16. Okay. So, so you. By the way, are you behind him when you drop this pulse? Like, because he's sitting in the chair.
In front of him, basically, because he had sit in the chair, and so like I sang right to him, and then I went kablamo.
Got it. Okay. So when that goes off, the whole bridge, first of all, there's and there's like wavers, there's several like a couple of alarms that go off, and some buzzing, and a lot of things happening on the ship. Lights flicker, and there's the sort of vid screens flicker off, and then these kind of emergency lights come on, and as the emergency lights go on, you can see what used to be your father, the 33rd conjunction or whatever, sitting in one place and just sort of staring ahead. And for a moment, the laser eye is just sort of still. And then you can see his head kind of go like he's cracking his neck.
So,
and you remember
God.
doing that a little bit, like, him doing that even as your father, like before he was going to go off and do some awesome warrior thing. He would do something like this. And then the eye, and he stands up. And now when he stands up, you get to notice, now that you're right on top of him, how much he was always bigger, right? He's always a big guy, but he was, I mean, for Avalna especially, but he sort of towers over you, and kind of stares down, and there's this sort of moment of silence, and then he says, "I am disappointed, my son. I had hoped that I could bring you to the conjunction and the gathering willingly. But it appears you have not abandoned your games and tricks. Indeed, it seems you are very much the little boy who fled. The one that I..." And he stops and then says, "that Gremak remembers."
You're dead!
And he says, "That is where you are wrong. I have never been more alive." And then he sort of lifts both of his arms and kind of brings them together. And there's a moment where Aramis, you and Kaz are sort of like staring as like his, basically both his hands go up, like as like almost like hammer blow type of thing. And then you hear the lights flicker again and start to go out. And then both of you, Kaz and Petra as well, and Aramis, are pushed to the side roughly, slammed would be a better way to put it, into the walls by something which is going past you in the dark. And there is sort of some kind of a grunt. And then you feel yourself falling backwards, and you have the very uncomfortable experience, Sleepwell, of falling backwards onto the obviously still unconscious body of Rona. Like, so you're kind of like, sort of awkwardly kind of stumble into her. And when the lights come back up, you see in front of you the Scourge Kanasi / Alfred, who is between you and your father. Your father's hands are down on top of Alfred's shoulder, as if he was bringing them down in a blow. And Alfred is there, and there is this buzzing sound, as if there are these two energy sources trying to override each other. And Alfred says, "You will not harm the Creator. You will not harm the..." And there's sort of he says that a couple times, and his voice is staticky, and then the 33rd conjunction says, "I see there is more here than I could have imagined. Then I must leave you this gift, my son. We will meet again. And when we meet again, the gathering will happen. Until then, consider this."
Can I shoot him? Can I shoot?
I will let you do that. I will let you do that.
Okay.
A gift at our parting. Yeah, because he can finish that. He says, "A gift at our parting." Now, you can fire, but I want to set the situation, though. So right now, you've got Rona in a seat, Sleepwell is kind of a little bit back on top of her, sort of half standing, half like, because he kind of got thrown aside. You've got Alfred basically with his scourge, kind of standing a little unsteadily on his Kanasi legs, standing in front of you. Standing in front of Sleepwell with the two fists of Sleepwell's father down on top of the Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, and also it's flickering and there's barely any light. This would be a hell of a shot, and you're just as likely to hit the bridge vid screen or like something as you are to hit them. So you can take a shot, but you are running a serious risk that you could cause damage to one of your friends or indeed the bridge itself. I'm not trying to dissuade you. I'm just letting you know this is not an optimal situation.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take the shot. I only reason Kaz is going for it because he feels like suddenly the Sleepwell's dad is going to like teleport away or disappear or something. So he's going to go for it despite the risk, I think.
All right. Okay. Well, then I will ask you to make an attack roll. You are going to be doing it at disadvantage and at -8.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So if somebody inspired right now, for instance,
that would be great.
That would cancel out the disadvantage.
That would negate the
Right, but he wouldn't get advantage, but he would just be a neutral roll at that point.
Right.
And I don't get any of my bonuses for like first turn of combat or anything like that. Okay.
No, not in this situation.
All right. Well, if anyone has inspiration, I'll do my first roll. How about that?
Let's see. Well, don't do the first roll yet because you kind of technically have to find out,
Or I don't use the character sheet, so my rolls don't display at the same time. But
well, yeah, but I want to make sure that because technically you have to get the inspiration if you're going to get it, the neutral roll before the roll even happens. Because otherwise it's like people are like, oh, now I'll help you or I won't. Like,
that's of course.
Nonstop has inspired Cosmeritis. All right,
thank you.
You were inspired by what you think. Thanks, Nonstop.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Good stuff.
So now just at a -8.
Now just exactly. No, simple. No, it's just a -8.
Ugh. Okay. All right. So I normally have a +6, so that will be -2. And then with the sniper, I do crit on a 19 or 20 roll.
Okay.
But all right. Here
by
we
the
go.
way, before you do that roll, because you're just inside the bridge and you're doing this just in terms of range here.
Yep.
These are like you're about 10, 20, 30. You're about 40 feet. Is that fine for you to get a?
Yep, that is just within the range.
Got it.
Or just in the
minimum range to be able.
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
All right, here we go. D20 -2. Nope.
Yeah, not so much. The shot goes off, and you hear this sort of this clanging sound, and you see a little bit of sparking from the side of Alfred, actually, where your shot went off. And you have this sort of weird experience of watching as the laser eye on his father sort of rotates all the way to the left without his body moving. So it's just now focusing on you. And there's a moment, and then the lights flicker again and then go out. And there is this feeling as if the inside of the bridge has become temporarily a vacuum. Is the way to describe it. It feels like all of your, not Kaz because he doesn't have this, but the rest of you who have ears, your ears pop, right? And it feels almost like going through a tunnel, like whoosh, and the lights come back on, and Sleepwell's father is gone. And there is just Alfred there, still kind of sparking, and staring at the open, empty place where his father was before.
So at this point, I'm going to cast mass healing to affect both the Alfred and Bruna.
Okay. And yeah,
and
the mass healing thing will have a limited effect on it'll have an effect on the biological component of Alfred, but you probably know that already, but I'm just letting you know. Okay. Alrighty. So go ahead and let me see what the roll is for, so we can see where Rona's at, especially.
It's 2d8 plus stuff.
Yeah, plus stuff. Probably plus your wisdom, I'm guessing. It turns out this music was actually perfect for this. I didn't even intend that. I'm like, this is awesome. I need to do Forbidden Planet more often. Creepy.
Creeper.
Yep.
Well,
while
nonstop,
looking that
we
up.
tried.
Yeah, it's 2d8 plus my forging modifier, but also I get +2 to healing rolls as well.
Okay. Yep. All right. So 2d8 plus forging plus 2, essentially then.
Yeah. Plus forging plus 2, so it's 2d8 plus 4 basically. So everybody in 30 feet is healed 14.
Okay. Hey, what's up, Paxi? Good to see you. Yes, Esper Genesis. All right, so yeah, so you can see that Rona's breathing becomes steadier almost immediately, and you can see that she's got that she's beginning to kind of her much less ragged and less shallow, and becomes steadier. The sparking on Alfred continues, although it seems to be lessened. And the Alfred sort of turns unsteadily to you, Sleepwell, and says, "Is the Creator in..." And there's a long pause, and then, "Danger."
I run over and I hug it. I'm good now. I'm good. You saved me. Thank you. Thank you. You saved me. Thank you.
Hey, Sleepwell, buddy.
I'm just hugging it. I'm just totally ignoring it.
You're like you're hugging around the blades.
I
you
mean,
know, like it's like it's fun.
I know I'm usually uncomfortable about all this situation, and I appreciate what Alfred did, but I mean, did dear old dad, broken dad, actually hurt Alfred in any way, shape, or form? Might want to check on that. You know, not just for Alfred's benefit, but for everybody in the sector.
Wait, I'm so sorry. You cut out a little bit. Can you just say that again, Aramis? Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, Sleepwell, buddy. I mean, your dear old dad. 33rd, whatever the guy was. I mean, I know family reunions are weird, but like Alfred jumped in. I really appreciate what he did. I mean, I've had my doubts. He stepped in. That's great. You might want to check, make sure he's okay. So just make sure he's okay. He's not going to do anything like blow up and take out the entire sector.
I did miss my shot too, so I may have accidentally shot you, Alfred. Totally didn't mean to. I'm not a danger. Please don't kill me.
At this point, Sleepwell just couldn't be more disgusted with either of you. He's just sort of like you just doubt the evidence in front of your own eyes. But I will look at Alfred and make sure, okay, I've taken care of his biological parts, at least a little bit, but let's check you out, Alfred, in terms of all the engineering stuff. And I'd like to see if I could help the sparking stop.
Okay, let's have you make a mechanics check, please, for this, and see how well you can do with that. Also, I want to make sure I know, just to be clear about what exactly you're checking. You're trying to get the sparking to stop, so you're just looking at the sort of physical mechanical components, right? Not the mechanical components that are evident, correct? You're not looking at like AI or like doing any of that. You're just looking
That's
at
correct.
Okay.
He was just shot and whatever. I'm thinking his AI is functioning pretty well since he ran right in front of my dad and saved my ass. So
okay, fair enough. Yeah, reasonable.
Just his mechanical stuff. Not a great roll.
Yeah, it's the thing that's odd about this is that you do see a little sort of ding, like a ricochet mark, where obviously Kaz's shot went wild, and so you can see what's up, Amanda? Again, welcome. So you can see that the shot sort of went off to the side a little bit, but it looks to you almost like a scorch mark, Sleepwell, and not like anything that really pierced or penetrated the armor in that area. And so you don't know why there's still sparking going on, and you don't know why. It's not quite in the area where the shot hit, for one thing. It seems to be just like something internal. And it doesn't seem to be getting worse at the moment. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's, all of a sudden he's going to blow up. It doesn't look like that. But it definitely is continuing to kind of spark, and there's a faint maybe a burning smell, maybe faintly.
So at this point, I'm like, remember how we were doing self-diagnostics, Alfred? Please perform a complete self-diagnostic of your internal systems. I smell fire. Is something burning?
And so Alfred sort of stops and says, I am unable to comply, Creator.
What is stopping you from complying?
The routine required is not permitted access.
Has somebody gained access to you recently?
And there's a pause, and then the answer is uncertain. I am feeling different, but functions seem otherwise normal. His pattern of speech is a little halting, although to be perfectly honest, this Alfred always has kind of a little bit of a halting pattern of speech to begin with. So, yeah.
Hey, Sleepwell, does he ask him if he remembers if anybody else has interacted with him between the time you last saw him and just coming in now?
He's right here. You can ask him yourself. It doesn't have to be me.
Buddy, he respects you. He likes you. I'm trying to
Alfred,
give you.
did you hear the question? Did you hear, this guy? Has anybody interacted with you since the last time we saw you?
And there's a pause, and then several have attempted to interact and access with my system's creator.
From a distance?
No, one was up close and the other almost as close. If the creator wishes, I can show one of these interactions and the result.
Oh yeah, let's see it.
So he turns and kind of shuffles out of the bridge, or he's heading sort of out of the bridge, if you want to follow him.
Oh yes, follow.
Okay, so
Following as well.
He followed. Are you also following, Kaz?
I'm gonna stay back and make sure Rona's okay.
I was wondering if everyone's like, well, good luck, Rona. Just like trying to leave. Okay, so Kaz is going to stay behind everyone else. I imagine that Petra is probably, I'm guessing, well, you tell me, is Petra going to follow as well?
I think for their safety, she would go with them.
That's what I thought.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the Alfred leads you sort of down.
Or actually, could I just go with them and then have Petra stay to look after Rona, quote unquote?
Oh, sure. That's fine too.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So the three of you watch as he goes along, and then goes into, door slides open, and he goes to the med bay. And I believe, I want to make sure before, so I don't contradict previous things, but I don't believe you. Did you go to the med bay last time first?
We did.
Okay, that's what I thought. Right, so not the
Yeah.
med bay, so past it then. I want to make sure it was, because it's down in this area, and I want to make sure I don't put him in the wrong spot. So down this place, down further to the room below the med bay. And when you get down there, and you walk in, you see, well, it probably was a body at some point. There's not much left. If you had to guess, you would say that this might well have been, you may remember that you were fighting a lot of those invisible creatures. They had all these like cloaking field things you had to deal with and all this stuff just before you went into the bridge. You might remember that last time. So it might have been one of these. Whatever is left of this creature is largely spread over most of the walls inside this room. And as you get there, you sort of see all this, and he turns around to all of you, but in particular looks at Sleepwell and says, "This is the result of the first who tried to interact with my systems in an unauthorized way."
Well, let that be a lesson.
Thank you for the host,
Okay.
Fire Snake, by the way. Thank you for the raid, dude.
So, I'm going to do a thorough scan to see if there's any kind of identification or anything left that could let us know anything about this person.
Well, no. I mean, you can do that, but all that you're basically
no
able
card,
to find.
No stick.
No. This creature looks like he was. I mean, just sort of like blended. I mean, I don't want to be too disgusting about it, but like, yeah, there's not much.
All right, so was this person successful in getting any access before this happened? I asked.
No, Creator. The minute he attempted to access my systems, he thought that he had what he called a backdoor, and then the back door was closed.
Wow.
You're my favorite person, Alfred. I just want to say that too. What about the other person who tried to access you?
That was more unusual. I do not think there is any obvious thing left within my systems, but yet there are places I cannot access. I do not know if he succeeded or failed.
Then that is what we have to find out. Let's go to the med bay and check you out properly. Please come with me.
So he follows. Now, while he's doing this, Kaz and Aramis, I just want to know what are your priorities as you're going through this, as you're like in the process of going through here, and either one can take that.
Kaz turns to I wasn't here last time, so
right, yeah, there was a lot that went on. That was the other reason I wanted to get that, like a lot.
Do we feel relatively confident that the ship is safe?
Well, the vid screens are off right now since the whole this ship is still dealing with emergency lighting. So you don't know entirely what's going on outside the ship. You killed a bunch of guys, not a bunch, but a few guys to begin with, and there weren't very many. If it's true that the 33rd Conjunction has actually now left, then yeah, the Hyperlance would definitely be yours, pretty likely. But you have no idea what's going on outside the ship right now, obviously.
Yeah. Didn't we have Spindra with us?
I'm trying to remember if Spindra was with you or if she was back on the other ship.
Spindra went off to with the protesters and stuff.
That's what I thought.
Right.
She went back to deal with the protesters, so I believe she never came on the ship, right?
Okay. Well, I turn to Aramis and say, well, that happened.
Like I said, crazy runs in the family, man. I'm glad he's on our side right now, at least.
Sleep well?
Yeah. Did you see what his Alfred did? I mean, and I point to the carcass, and there's no other guy. I mean,
yeah,
that kind of power.
Yep. We have a lot to figure out.
Yes.
We were going to try to get out of here, though, right?
Well,
that's the whole point of the protest.
You are absolutely right. The whole point of the protest was to actually gain access to our ship again. We still have to get repairs enacted before we can get out of here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Sleepwell and I started working on that when we first got here, but really, I think Spindra is going to be the one who's going to be able to get us in working condition.
And she's all off on protest mode, hanging out with the rebels, and probably going to get herself killed. I mean, come on, this was a bad. We're in trouble. We're in trouble here.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know what's going on the station and get access to her.
What happened to Canero? I forget. When we were in the Tangrel and they met us in the cockpit and we had that long conversation, and then it was complicated. Then that's where we sent the broadcast out to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
we sent the broadcast, and then they took advantage of the situation as well. So,
All right. Well, in the interest of trying to get out of here, I'll go check on Petra and Rona, and then I think we're gonna have to go find Spindra and just leave if we can, or if we can leave without her. But I don't know.
As you say this, the lights come on full, like the emergency lighting flickers off and the real lighting flickers on, and you hear the slight hum of the Hyperlance engine. And you also hear the sound of some banging on the outside of the ship. It sounds as if someone is essentially knocking or hammering to be heard.
I'll go take care of that. You go check on Spindra, or sorry, you go check on Petra.
Okay.
Aramis is going to go find out where that banging is coming from.
Okay. I poke my head into the med bay just to make sure that Sleepwell wasn't turned into juice.
He does not. He does not appear to be.
Okay.
At the moment. So you're going to go take care of that. You're going to go up and deal. Aramis is going to deal with the banging. Actually, I'm going to follow Aramis first, then I'm going to come back to Sleepwell, and then finally Kaz. Aramis, when you go to sort of find the sound and where it's coming from, you notice that it is definitely coming from the airlock, the entrance that you originally made, the entering airlock that allowed you to access the Hyperlance in the first place.
Is there any type of display that I can like grab, or like I can pull up right next to it where I can actually look outside, maybe see who's at the door?
You can, because the power is now actually up. You see what looks like several, in fact, a number of, more than several, people outside the airlock, and it is a motley crew would be the best description. There are what looks like some Volna. You see a couple of Kesh, some Matakai. Maybe that's a Promethean or a human in there someplace. There's a bunch of people that are standing outside. A lot of them are holding what looks like iron, like bars, like rebar, and plastisteel, like clubs, and some of them have got what look like household appliances. Like it's some bizarre, combination of things.
Is that guy holding a microwave?
Yeah, guys, who brought the blender? A few of them have like a few of them have got like do have a couple of laser pistols and rifles. You don't notice any security, but you notice what looks like a mob, basically, of people. And in the front, there's someone that you can't quite make out because of the angle of the camera, and that's the person who is, banging every so often and then seems to be listening for a response.
I cue the intercom to the outside. Is this? Are you guys soliciting? Is there's some? I mean, listen, guys, we're not really looking to buy anything today. It's been a really bad day. We're just kind of cleaning house and kind of taking care of things. Thanks for stopping by, though. We'll bake some cookies and bring them back to you later.
So there's sort of a pause, and then you hear coming in from the other side, someone responds on the intercom, and the voice is pretty familiar, and says, "I'm glad to know that you still got your sense of humor, Aramis, but in fact, this is Abraxas, and you'll be happy to know that we won." And there's this big shout, "Rah!" And he says, "I don't think you'll find any obvious security. But, something weird happened out here, and I need to talk to you about it. Anyway, the good news is, Pelsaros is ours again, and that means that we have some discussions to talk about before you go off and do what we discussed. How's things going in there?"
Things are going good. They're good. Do me a favor and step back for just a second so I can see you in the display. I want to just make sure it's you, buddy.
He steps back, and it indeed does look like Abraxas. He actually has, you can see that his last time you left him, he was actually on the Tangrel, and you can see that he has like some sweat. There might be a cut on his face. He's got, actually he's wearing essentially security armor, but he has no helmet or anything like that, but it sure looks like him. And behind him, you can actually see some of the others that are there, including Spindra, who has got a big smile on her face and is talking with someone else. You can't hear what she's saying, but talking with somebody behind Abraxas.
Hey, buddy. Give me just a second. I'm going to open up this airlock for you and get you guys all in here, and we'll get you squared away. Give me just 1 second, okay? Things are good. I'll be right back. Okay. Disable the outer intercom. Hey, Kaz, Petra, sleep well? Sounds like everybody won out there. I'm thinking about letting Abraxas inside. Anybody have any issues? Spinder's with him.
Fine by me, I guess. Rona's not gonna like it.
Okay, sure. Why not? I understand that. Sleep well?
It looks like Abraxas. I mean,
and Spinder's with him, buddy. I think it's okay to let him in.
Sounds. Yeah. I mean, just make sure it's them. Like, you know, I'm kind of like half doing my work, half paying attention. It's like, yeah, if it's them, let them in, I guess.
I cue the door. I'm just like, let him in.
700 stormtroopers with Darth Vader. Damn it!
Well, at least they all shoot like shit.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
true.
You know, it's like at least I know.
And they all miss you at point blank range. Nonsense. This is far too accurate to be Jawas. No. That's not what happens. So they come in, and it's basically this group of people comes in, and it does sound a little bit like, you know, echoing down the hallways of the Hyperlands here. The woo, you know, like people just sort of cheering and everybody have fun, you know, like all that stuff. They're all sort of dancing and sort of banging on things, and they come and when they sort of pass through the airlock and see you, you can see this sort of group, and there's a bunch of people around you, Aramis. They're kind of shaking your hand, patting you on the back. One of them's like, "Hey man, what'd you do in the war?" And someone else is like, "This isn't a war, you moron." "Yeah, it's a war. We fought the first war for Pelseros, and we are the veterans. You know how many drinks this is gonna get us?" And he sort of, you know, elbows Abraxas, who kind of like gives him, sort of rolls his eyes. There are a bunch of others who are sort of walking around and kind of like looking up at the, wow, look at this ship. They're like tapping on the walls and stuff, and everything. If this is the winning crew, it's it's a big group of people, but they sure as hell seem authentically Pelserosian, as much as you could sort of define the term. And Spindra kind of pushes her way through. You can see that her left arm is kind of being held limply, as if it's like not working properly. But she's got a laser pistol in her right hand, and she comes up to you, Aramis, and she says, "I knew that we could do it if we worked together. I knew we had a chance. These are my people. These are the people of Pelseros." And everyone's like, "Ah, Pelseros!" Ah. You know, they're all cheering. And she says, "Security's been disabled, but like Abraxas said, there's something weird about it. But never mind that. We'll tell you in a second. Where is everybody else? Where's Petra? What about Rona?" And she sort of looks around. "Where's everyone else? What happened to the people that took over the ship?"
Yeah, about that, Spinder. Why don't you go get patched up, and we'll have a little bit of a powwow after the fact. We've got some troubles that we still need to deal with. But right now, why don't you just Sleepless working in the med bay? Why don't you round up anybody who's wounded and see if he can help while I hang out with Abraxas and go talk to him and Petra and Cause, and we kind of get this thing sorted out so that we can have a little bit of a big heart-to-heart about what's going on here.
And the drunk guy who originally told us, like, "Oh, I'm a doctor. I mean, I have medical training. I've seen, yeah, I can fix some wounds. Yeah. If you need help, I can do the job. I've seen several vids on it," and so he kind of trails off, but you can tell that he's like, "I'm ready to help." And
it's the guy with the microwave.
Several others, yeah. That's the guy with the microwave.
I've watched Grey's Anatomy.
I saw something on VidTube. Yeah.
Like I said, look, just go with Spendra. She's going to take you with Sleepwalk. You can help Sleepwalk. That's great. Like everybody, med bay's that way, guys. Just just go out this door right here. Take a right. Eventually, you'll get to it. Please, just go ahead and go.
All right, sounds good. They all start
let's go
moving
talk to Kaz and Petra.
They start moving off down the hall. There's probably like 30 people, by the way, here, and they're all like kind of like running, walking past and just like, oh, sounds good. Wow, look at this place. Murmur, and they're kind of walking through, and the door opens, and so as they're going, Aramis, I just want to know what you're doing, and then I'm going to jump back to Sleepwell, as I said.
I am definitely grabbing Abraxas and anybody else that was with his particular crew, and I'm just going to take them directly to the bridge and sync up with Sleepwell, or sorry, with Kaz and Petra.
Okay. We will jump to that in just a moment, but I'm going to go to Sleepwell. Sleepwell, as you're working, you suddenly hear the sound of like muffled kind of like chatter outside the med bay, and then the door opens. And actually, Kaz, who's still there, would see this too. And so the door opens, and Kaz and Sleepwell.
Or actually, I was going up to the bridge.
Okay, all right.
To be with Rona.
Gotcha. So that's right. So you're going to be up with the
Yeah.
bridge. Okay. Not Alfred. Alfred is still down here. So Aramis, you are going to be up there as well. Okay. So Sleepwell, the door opens, and you see essentially a mob. So there's a mob of people, but they all have big smiles on their face. And there's like a bunch of them, and they start coming in the room, and one's like, "Oh, it's I heard you need some assistance here. I thought I could help out. I'm got some med skills. I can heal the sick. I've done it before, and if you need any wounds for me to pour some alcohol on, I'm ready to do it." And everyone's like, "Yeah, he knows, yeah." And so they're all sort of like, and they refer to him as Janus. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, Janus knows what he's doing. Oh, Janus." And Janus seems a little unsteady on his feet, frankly, Sleepwell. And Janus sort of steps forward a couple of steps and is like, "All right, who's the patient? Is it this big robot thing? I'm not really much of a mechanic, but, I can kind of do a little bit of welding, spot welding maybe." And Alfred says, "Master, should I destroy all the intruders?"
He
says.
Just relax, Alfred, just for a moment here. Hi, I sort of like shake his hand. It's like, so we won? Pelseros is ours again?
Yep, Pelseros is ours, those bastards. We spaced a bunch of the ones that took over. I mean, not that Pelseros is much, but at least it's ours, not much, you know what I'm saying? So
Gotcha.
They won't be back again. And we heard that all of you are responsible for it. You're all the heroes of this. So we're going to give you a real hero's welcome. But first, we got to help heal the sick. That's what I'm here to do. I heal sick people, among other things.
So I just sort of like, show of hands, how many of you in this mob back here are wounded?
And a few of them are like, "Oh," and some people start to speak. They're like, "Well, I think I might have sprained my ankle. It's like, I got a bad cut here. Yeah, this other one, Spindra went up to the bridge, but she's got this." And someone's like, "Well, I mean, when you talk about and you notice that they may all have been sort of celebrating a little early because a few of them have a little bit of, so a couple of them are kind of like, well, when you say injuries, I mean wounded, recent, because my knee hurts a lot, especially when it's humid inside, when there's a mess up in the hangar and it's humid, my knee hurts a lot. I mean, do you think you could fix that? So people are kind of like throwing a bunch of medical complaints and concerns at you.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so I've got the perfect plan here. So across the other side of the ship, we have a fully stocked kitchen, and it is just waiting for people to go and enjoy some libations and stuff.
Oh,
and I think Janice can handle a lot of these complaints, being, sort of like the medic that So I'm going to finish up with my patient here. You all head over to the kitchen, and then I'll be over as soon as I can to assist Janice with all of the things that you need help with.
All right, that sounds. And they're all sort of like murmuring. "Oh, sounds good. I'm hungry. I can hit up the galley. Yeah, it sounds." So they start leaving, and as they start moving out, Janice says, "All right, well, I'm glad you got rid of that crew. I mean, they're all nice people. Don't get me wrong. Well, not nice. They're all scoundrels and criminals, but they're good scoundrels and criminals. But they don't really understand the medical job. They don't know the medical job the way that I know the medical job that I do here with you."
Right. But Janice, you're gonna go take care of them, right? Like I just
Oh,
said.
I thought you needed my help. I still like I thought that was just to get rid of him. You need my want me to supervise him? Or?
That was because I'm gonna go help you take care of them. I mean, they're the ones who did all the hard work of reclaiming Pelseros.
Yeah.
And anyway, there are drinks and stuff over there too. If you get done early, just help yourself to whatever you can find there.
Oh, really? You're sure? That's very generous.
Yeah. This is just gonna take me a few minutes. I'm all good here.
All right. Yeah. I'll do that. Just remember, make sure that always stay grounded. When you're working on them, don't you don't want to get a shock. I remember that. That's very important. Don't want to get hurt.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right. I'll see you.
I'll see you over there in a little bit.
I'll see you. Sleep good. And I'll be there in a bit. And he kind of like staggers back and wanders over. So
I lock the door.
That's what I was gonna ask. Okay, so you lock the door. You're like,
click.
Yeah, right. And then you go back to working on Alfred. Now, Sleepwell, beyond the having dealt with a little mini mob, someone called it a mobette in chat. You might have called it a mobette. Besides, as you're dealing with this, having dealt with a mobette, what are you doing now with Alfred? Like, what are you trying to do with him?
So basically, like, I'm trying to do a full diagnostic here that this time includes the computer stuff. So basically, like a full-on systems-wide check, especially now with AI.
Okay. All right. So what I will need you to do is I'm going to ask you to make a computers check then. So we can get a sense of how that works.
Okay, so and for this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to add to my roll my fortune. I am fortuitous now. It's the feat that I took when I gained a level.
Yep.
And so I'm going to roll a d20, but I'm going to actually add all 3 of my fortune dice to it. So I can add 3d6 to the roll as well. So I don't know how to do that at the same time, like to roll all those things at the same time. So I'm going to roll the d20 and the d6, but I'm committing to putting all the fortune into the roll.
Got it.
All right, so here's the d20 roll. It's a 12.
Okay.
And then I'm adding to that 3d6. So a 22 total.
Okay. So as you begin to scan, so the sort of the mechanical checks, again, like it's still not totally clear, but as you begin to scan the sort of internal logic, basically, the internal logic of the Alfred systems. And you've done a little bit of this work before with him, but, not quite to the same degree as this. You've added some fail safes with the original Alfred as well. But you've spent a lot of time working on trying to get fail safes with this. As you're sort of going through and trying to get a sense of what's going on here, you notice that there is some sort of strange, as you're accessing it, there's an area of basically his virtual logic. So essentially this area, almost like his current memory, the stuff that keeps him running at the present time, which is not accessible to you. It's almost like there's a little box. If you imagine it as being like an empty room, there's a little box or a square that you can't access or get into. But it's definitely there, and although you may not have run a comprehensive thing of this type before, you don't know if this is something that, has always existed in it, but it's like, it's like the chest in Pulp Fiction, the suitcase in Pulp Fiction that no one ever knows what's inside it, right? It's just sitting here and it's not accessible to you.
When you say it's not accessible, are there screws?
No, I don't mean mechanical. I mean in the AI. As you're actually searching it, it's as if you're coming across this area of code, basically. It's like the diagnostic keeps skipping over that part. So it's just like, again, I'm giving an analogy, but, Sector 1, fine. Sector 2, fine. Sector 3, fine. Sector 5, fine. And you're like, what happened to Sector 4?
Right.
It's like it doesn't even pay attention to Sector 4.
But I did find it, and so, like, given the...
Well, you found the absence of it, and so you worked backwards to assume that it's not giving you a report on the equivalent of Sector 4.
Okay. So, right, the diagnostic didn't. But so, like, again, like we're dealing with sort of like a computer system that's all like different than the way our computer systems work. So it's
Yeah.
a little hard to talk about like how would I tackle the problem of trying to get into a sector that doesn't show up on a diagnostic
Exactly.
in this world. So
Yeah.
So whatever thing it is that would be the next thing to do, like to try to identify or explore what is going on there. But since given the role that I had, do I think that messing with this without knowing what it is could possibly set something off?
It's dangerous to play with any kind of artificial intelligence or computer systems when you're dealing with the unknown. It's one thing to say this thing is a very clear, Trojan, virus, right? You sort of hit it and something like spreads, and you can sometimes see that. It's another thing when you literally don't know what this blank area is. There clearly is to use the analogy again, Sector 4 that exists within this thing, and yet the fact that it's not reporting on it means that you're functioning in the dark. So, yeah, it's risky. There are multiple things you could do, by the way. You could try to essentially wipe the memory completely. There are all kinds of risks associated with that, but you could just be like, well, all sectors, including Sector 4, essentially, like we just, start clean. But there's all kinds of situations with that, and it's not even 100% clear that Alfred would even let you do that. But you could try that. You could try to basically continue to trace around the outside of this thing and run more and more sort of cycles of checks, and then try to get into the center of it. Or you can pitch me on other creative ways that you might want to approach it too. But the idea is there are things you could do, but yes, you are operating in the dark right now, and that's always dangerous.
So what I say to Alfred is, Alfred, do you think you can cordon off this area? And I clearly indicate to him what Sector 4 is or whatever it is, so that you don't accept any commands or routines from it unless you first analyze what the command is and then accept it.
And so there's a sort of moment's silence, and then I can attempt to do so, Creator, but... And there's sort of pause, and then... But I cannot say for certain that I can override other programming. I will endeavor to do what I can.
Go ahead and try to do that for now. In the meantime, are there ways in which you can basically try to monitor any activity that's basically spreading out from that area into you, and basically, you use that to trace what it is and what the commands are?
I will do so, Creator. And then there's a pause, and then he says, Creator, and he looks right at you, sort of like his strange mechanical, kind of head swivels towards you. And it's almost like he asked a question.
Oh, yes. How can I help you?
He says, Winter, and stops.
What is the meaning of winter?
And he says, I do not understand, Creator. What do you mean? Winter has several connotations. And he starts like responding as if you just asked him for the first time what winter is.
Right. And so I say, are you able to record yourself?
And there's sort of pause, and then I can record my functions, Creator.
I'm sorry, your internet kicked out there for a second. Can you repeat that?
He says, I can record my functions, Creator.
A moment ago, you looked at me directly and said the word winter. What I'd like you to do is to see if you can trace back to Sector 4 to see who sent that message to me.
And he sort of, there's moment pause, and then, I am sorry, Creator, but can find no record or information regarding winter or messages sent about winter.
Okay, this is really dangerous. What I'd like you to do basically is to go into sleep mode right now, okay?
And he says, very well, Creator. When should I awaken?
Can you awaken at a command that I give you?
Yes.
I will give you the command to awaken, and at that point, please awaken. Until then, try to put yourself in a kind of rehabilitation mode where you can try to, repair whatever might be going on with your computer systems.
And there's a pause, and then I will endeavor to do so, Creator. And then the head just dips slightly, and you can hear the slight humming sort of decreases as if it's gone into that essentially sleep mode, from what you can tell.
Right.
And then what?
And then I basically get on the intercom that's in my suit, and I imagine I can do that just for party members. Is that correct?
I would say, although I'm trying to think if it would be separate from like whether Spindra. You probably would have something hooked up where just the four of you would hear it. Yeah, I imagine so.
Okay. So I'm just going to click a button here and say, everybody, we need an AI expert as soon as we can find one. Alfred is not well.
All right.
I think, by the way, that's a good moment to pause for just a second and welcome everybody who's here to day 28 of Esper Genesis, which we are calling Reunions and Revelations. I think we've delivered so far. If you like what you see and hear, please make sure to follow the channel. Please support us on our Patreon, !Arvtreon. Please check out as well the sub button. Please let people know about this show and make sure you follow us individually as well. Check out Johnny Pittman doing his various things. He GMs at a lot of different places and his own channel. Definitely you should check out, of course, Cat Rambo's writing and Carlos Hernandez's writing and his game designs and things like that. And you should check out not only Zach's channel, but all the many things that Zach does, both on this channel and elsewhere, because he is a busy guy also. And as well, make sure to support Alligator Alley Entertainment, which sponsors this campaign, and of which we are proud to be the flagship campaign of Esper Genesis. And we hope you are enjoying it so far. Programming note, we will have about 1 hour. We have one more hour, basically, because we'll try to do a 3-hour session tonight. So we'll go for about another hour or so, just letting the players know, wrapping up somewhere around 12:20, 12:30. And yeah, so having said all of that, so you said the thing on the intercom. I'm going to jump back over then to Aramis and Kaz, who are now sitting at the bridge. So we will sort of sync this all back up at the point when Sleepwell's your sort of intercom thing comes into them in the bridge. In the meantime, while Sleepwell was dealing with all that stuff with Alfred, Aramis and Kaz, you were on the bridge with Petra and with Rona, who is still unconscious, but again seems to be doing better. And of course, Abraxas and company.
And you said something about Spindra being there as well.
Yeah, and Spindra is with him. Yep.
Spindra, you need to go get your arm looked at. That's a serious injury there.
And she kind of, it's nothing that a couple of electrostimulants won't take care of. It's just somebody hit it wrong. I might have, I don't know, sprained it or broken it. It doesn't matter as long as we actually got the station free. And I think we did, at least for now.
Something you could do then, Spindra, is if we're going to get out of here, I think Sleepwell and I already did a little bit of work to repair the hyperlance in order for us to leave. But I would appreciate it if you took a look at the engineering room and worked that magic that we initially came to you for.
And she nods and she says, already on it. I'm actually going to head down there. I sent a couple of the boys over to take care of it as well. And as she says, a couple of the boys, you hear the sound of the intercom buzzing. And she flicks it on. And you hear over the speakers, all right, boss, I think we got most of this covered. But the inducer, it's making a weird buzzing sound. And I don't know, but there was something that, well, Revis kind of hit a button that maybe he shouldn't have. And she says, don't touch anything else. And she immediately flicks off the intercom, and then she looks around at all of you and says, I'm just going to go take care of that situation and try to get this thing fixed. While I
I
do
feel
it,
really
though,
confident in your work, Swindler. Great job. Good team you picked right there. Good job.
and she looks at you and kind of shrugs, Aramis, and she says, "Listen, they may not clean up nice, but they'll get your ship running again. Trust me." And she kind of like winks, and then clearly feeling good about herself despite her injury, departs. Hi, Rock God. What's up, man? Leaving you now just with you and Abraxas.
So, Braxis, what happened?
He says, "Well, we won, that's for sure. But the way we won is the problem. The things that we set up worked exactly as we intended. People got the word. They got fed up. I've never seen them like that. The people started attacking bosses, going off on security, and eventually started overwhelming them. There's way more of us than there were of them. And that was always the key. If you could get all of them to rise up at one time, there's nothing that could actually stand in the way. Even then, though, there would have been a lot more people dead. But almost as quickly as it started, it seemed like it was all over. Something happened, almost like a switch got flipped. A bunch of the security bailed. They ran. A couple of them took off, landed and got into the ships and took off and headed out of the station. We didn't have anyone obviously manning the outer guns or anything like that. They escaped without us being able to stop them. A few others melted into the city. Probably ended up now down below. Maybe they're hanging out with your friends down below in the sewers, maybe in the Undercity. And then he sort of pauses and says, "But the point is, it was night and day. You know what I mean? 1 and 0. First, they're fighting us. Next, they're running away, backing off, or sometimes even just surrendering, giving up. And he blinks and says, and the ones that gave up, well, they weren't treated very well. I guess the people of Pelseros had some grudges they had to settle. Anyway, the point is, something happened in that fight, and it wasn't just us. Someone told them to stop fighting, is what I'm saying."
You still have that surveillance package?
He says, "Yeah, but it's not set up here. It's over in the Tangrel."
I'm curious. Is there any type of fail-safe with powers that be here on the station that if shit goes down and it's all wrong, they nuke it from orbit and just kind of start over?
He says, "There was never
Oh,
anything that they
gosh.
ever told anyone publicly about it, but it's quite possible that they could have set up any kind of functions like that. The thing I don't understand is, why would you set up a failsafe like this? If you know that you're fighting for your control of the station, it's going to be a lot harder to get it back once you've already given it up. Why would they take this moment to say, okay, fine, you can have it? This doesn't make any sense."
I didn't say it made any sense. I'm just saying that if they feel like they can't actually hold the station, remove an asset rather than make it be something to be used against you.
It could be. The thing is, it happened almost instantaneously. Like someone contacted them or there was a switch hit. Also, there was something weird that happened on the outside of the Hyperlance. For a moment, the whole ship just kind of, blinked, I guess is the term.
About how long ago did this blink happen and everybody turn tail and run? Was it almost synchronous?
You mean right after the blink did they run? Yeah, pretty much. And I would say it was, 15, 20 cycles, which, roughly speaking, syncs up directly with when the 33rd conjunction left.
Well, shit. What do you think, Kaz?
I honestly don't know. I just want to get out of here. That's all I want to do.
And he says, "Look, you folks were already planning to look into this little problem that I told you. The one at the Esper station. But I think you should know that whatever's happened here, I don't think they're completely unconnected. If Hesper has got some connection with Zephyrcore, and if Zephyrcore has got itself some connection with larger organizations that run it, well, first of all, they've got control of the station. Then suddenly they give it up, and they do it right around the time that you're getting close to them on their tail. There's got to be some kind of a connection. You've got to gather more information about these people. So, helping me, that's important. But for you, helping yourself might be just as important.
All right. Well, are you and all these people that you brought planning to become our crew or something?
And Braxis nods and he says, once they sober up anyway, we'll be able to do what we can to run this ship. Although the impression I get is you don't want too many people on a ship like this. It's harder to keep them quiet, you know. Still, most of these people I would trust, if not with my life, at least with my money, and that's saying a lot on Pelsaros. Most of these people are ones who have paid me for information before, or I've gathered information from them. Moreover, they just happen to, as they see it, free a space station. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. Means they're not likely to go rushing to someone who's going to be a higher bidder, even if that person could contact them at the moment, which I doubt. So yeah, I've got a small crew that'll be able to help run this thing. That said, though, you folks are going to have to be the ones who really go in and deal with this situation. And he sort of stops and then shrugs and says, if Zephyrcore is handling Hespera Station, then the last thing you want is me anywhere near it. I'm public enemy number 1 to them, you know.
So, what, you're gonna stay here?
Either stay here, or at least on the ship. I think it makes more sense for me to be here and try to get control of this thing with Spindra. At least by the time you get back, we might have some kind of order in Pelsaros. And we need to do that. You hear that old saying about nature abhors a vacuum? Well, it's pretty much the same way with politics. If somebody doesn't get control of it, someone else will step in, and that's usually not good.
All right. Okay, so you're saying you would want to stay here and help restore whatever semblance of government Pelsaros has left?
He nods. He's like, or build a new government, perhaps. Yeah, I think it makes more sense for me to do that here.
All right. Okay, I turn to Aramis. Well, I'm gonna go check on Spindra in the engineering room. Given everything that's happened here, I'm going to feel so much more comfortable once we're actually out in the sea of space and not on this station that has been so special in the time we've been here. So I'm gonna go do that. And Kaz walks away.
Okay. Dramatically.
Dramatically.
Aramis, what about you?
Aramis kind of looks around at where Kaz has gone, and then kind of looks back to Abraxas, and he says, he doesn't understand that where you're sending us is 10 times worse. But I do. We're in it to win it, or we're dead here. What kind of support are you going to be able to provide to us from here? I thought you were this glorious, hacker type.
And he nods and he says, I am this glorious hacker type. But hackers have limitations too. And they know my signatures now. I'm trying to build up some kind of new protocol and be able to work out some new aliases, but it takes time to do it. And as you might have noticed, we've been a little busy trying to run a revolt here. And he kind of, gestures around to the bridge. And he says, so I'll be in contact with you, and I'll try to help when I can. If there are terminals there that are causing you problems, I might even be able to remote hack them if I know about them in a distance. But if I show up there in person, and if they catch my signature in the area, you're going to have a worse situation than you want. So yeah, it isn't a good situation, but I feel like it's going to be worse if I'm directly involved in it.
While you sit here on your cush little, seat and type away at your data pad.
Oh
maybe
yeah,
taking the
cush is
blaster
the way I
fire.
would describe it. And he kind of gestures up to his face. He's like, I plan to be fed grapes by my adoring fans just as soon as I make sure that I get some of the bounties off my head from the Shadow Technocracy. Of course, we can just rebuild Pelseros. That should be a bagatelle, right? No problem in taking care of that. It's absolute luxury. And he kind of snorts and he's like, if you think this is a cushy job, you're welcome to take it instead. But I really could use your help at Hespera Station while I'm in the midst of dealing with these people.
Well, it's funny you talk about the Shadow Technocracy and how the difficulties that you have. I got a question for you. You ever dealt with any of these people who refer to themselves as a number and then conjunction?
Conjunction? And he kind of gives you this look and then sort of thinks, he's like, you mean the weirdo cult types that talk about the conjunction and the, what is it, the assembling or the putting to get the gathering? Is that what it is? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So,
What is that?
you don't know anything else about them?
I know that they're a bunch of lunatics, but I haven't heard the name for ages. Why?
I'd like to get a gauge of whether he's bullshitting me or not.
Okay. Make an insight check for me.
God damn it, Kaz, where did you go? Why'd you leave? How about an 18?
I mean, he seems genuinely confused. Like, what? Like, again, like you just mentioned, like, have you heard the good word about the, Battle of Fort Sumter? Like, what? Like, so he's just like,
Of course we have.
He just sort of looks very confused. It seems genuine, Aramis.
All right, buddy. I got an interesting little piece of information for you. You asked me about what happened on this ship. I'm going to tell it to you because today we're heroes. We're victors. We've done something right. That little shimmer that you saw on the ship, that was the 33rd conjunction making an exit.
And so he just like, he gets this sort of, he furrows his brow, and then he's like, Aramis, I understand that you like a little bit of the brew when the need arises, but I would have thought you would have waited until after everything was secure to start drinking.
Stone cold sober, buddy, and man, the bender tonight is going to be good because I am not going to be able to deal with Sleepwell or anybody else celebrating this victory. I'm not a part of the righteous.
So he says, "You're serious? You're actually telling me that some thing calling itself a conjunction showed up on the ship?"
Is it possible for me to gain access to the surveillance system internally of the ship and demonstrate to him through video what we saw? And maybe even play back the entire sort of like interaction?
Yes, there is a security log that is supposed to be played through. And you can do that by checking computers, if you wish, to see that you can access that log.
How about a 14?
All right, yeah, exactly, Arnell. Looks like you sprouted 7 more heads and pronounced yourself the Duchess. Yes, basically that would be the good way to describe it, yes. Yeah, and I was waiting for that, Dragon's Bear. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Okay. So...
To assimilate the universe.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
There's one hell of a mashup we're working on.
Exactly. So he, you sort of look at the security cameras, and you start playing back the tape, and then you get to the section where you walk in to the bridge, and the guy is standing, and turns, and then the next thing you see is all of you standing on the bridge, staring at Alfred looking at a seat. It's like the entire section from your encounter with him to the point that he vanished is just gone.
Well, shit.
And he says, so he looks at this and he's like, all right, what happened here? Did you erase tape?
No. I had nothing to do with it. I'm not as sophisticated at these surveillance systems as you are. Somebody with a lot more, I would say, know-how and technical skill and cybernetic implants and, motive was able to easily just sort of remove, 10 or 15 minutes worth of conversation.
But wait, when did you say he was here?
Remember that flash?
Yeah.
That was when he evaporated, transported, disappeared, teleported across the galaxy, went up in a puff of smoke. I don't know. What I do know is that for the prior 15 minutes, the 33rd conjunction told us a tall tale. And man, it's a mind bender. But I'm not done. This is the best part, buddy.
Oh, wait. He puts up a hand. He says, before you tell me about this 33rd conjunction, you understand that means that between that time and now, 15 minutes later or so, the security has been erased since then.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that means that someone has accessed and hacked that now, in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, buddy, I get it.
And he sort of shrugged, he kind of lifts his hands, and he's like, are you sure this ship is secure?
Absolutely not. Nothing is that. That's why I asked you about if you had the surveillance package up. I guarantee you that the shadow technocracy is taking advantage of this situation. Because hey, buddy, I got a nice sort of I got a mind bender for you.
All right.
The shadow technocracy is actually working for the Conjunction Boys.
What? The shadow technocracy doesn't work for anybody but themselves. What do you mean?
This 33rd conjunction said exactly that.
Maybe he's a lunatic. How does he know what he is? Maybe he thinks that he was told to do this by little spacemen on Mars.
Look, if you want to go talk to Sleepwell, and I point all the way back to the direction of the Medbay, you're more than welcome to. This thing, this whatever it was, this more machine than cat, whatever, this 33rd conjunction, this cybernetic instrument, it used to be Sleepwell's father. And if you know anything about his species, they abhor technology. They just do not like it at all. But apparently, this guy was all up in the tech, so something happened. And Sleepwell, while he didn't like what was going on, took him very seriously.
So he has his head tilted, and he's regarding you in the way that someone would be regarding a person who has just informed their teacher that the dog ate their homework. And he sort of is looking at you, and then he says, so, this creature, this 33rd conjunction, that is either working for or ordering around the shadow technocracy, also happens to be your Sleepwell's father.
I'd like to persuade him.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Oh, fuck. What a time to... Oh, my God.
It seems appropriate narratively, because he's just like...
Oh, totally.
He's just kind of like head tilted, like...
Listen, you don't have to believe me.
Oh, I don't.
I know you don't. Look, you don't have to believe me. I know what happened. Sleepo knows what happens. Kaz knows what happens. Petra knows what happens. What happened.
All right, look.
Poor Rona here, she was passed out. Maybe she'll be able to tell us something when she wakes up.
And he says, all right, look, I'm not saying you're lying. I just think we've all had a lot of stress, and it's possible that you might have seen some things that you didn't actually see. I've seen that happen before many, many times.
Right, but so the unusualness of people running away from the battle that is their station, they own this property, blah 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 blah. Shout out technocracy, you know, asserting themselves. That's unusual, right?
He nods. Yeah, it's unusual, all right.
It's unusual that we actually won without much of a fight, right?
I'd say that was pretty unusual, yeah.
And it would be incredibly unusual for somebody to be able to hack the security systems on this ship.
I would say that's, especially what you told me of this ship, it's pretty unlikely, yeah.
So that's 3 sort of like, well, you know, that's a strange freaking coincidence. Oh my God, that's another strange coincidence. And that's 3 in a row. And I'm not even done yet, buddy. I could go on. With all of that going on, at least some element of what I'm saying is possibly true.
So he sighs heavily and he says, you know, I liked it better when I was just gathering information, not figuring out how to save the universe. And he kind of sort of stares and then says, fine, it seems insane in the extreme, but obviously there are things I can't figure out. Look, if you want answers to any of this, you're going to have to track down places where you can find some of those answers. One of those might be Peltiveria, but the better choice, the place that's safer, at least at the moment, is Hesper Station. At the very least, they're going to have access to some things that have just happened here, and it's reasonable to put 2 and 2 together. I think you've got to try to do this thing at the Hesper Station. And in the meantime, I'll see what I can shake down from some of my contacts, but I don't know. If I start sending them messages about the 33rd conjunction, they're going to act like I'm another one of those Nigerian Holovid scams.
Here, buddy. No, I got it. Seriously, I got it. You tell them that you've got this nut job working for you who's trading like his skill set for just crackpot information. And you just want to humor him and give him the correct crackpot information. You could even call me by name. You could mention Aramis. Aramis is looking for crackpot information about the conjunction. I just need to know as much as humanly possible. Sorry, as much as possible. Otherwise, we're all screwed.
He nods. He's like, all right, I'll get on it as soon as I can. And I'll contact you as soon as I get more information. Even if it's information coming that we find out while you're over at the station.
Perfect, buddy.
He's like, wait. And he kind of, puts a hand to his ear and he's like, yeah, it sounds like you got someone who says that you were looking for info. They might have subscribed for 20 months on a 20-month streak. Their name might be J-Rab. I just want you to know that's possible. And he says, thank you, J-Rab, for the resub, dude. Appreciate it, man. So he says, but no, he does actually say, all right, I'll contact you as soon as I know more about it. But I don't think you can probably afford to wait for me to get that information, Aramis. If they're trying to gather this stuff together, you need to go on the offensive here.
Look, man, you're absolutely right. Not. I'm just saying, be careful at this point. There's a lot more going on than just some, shadowy, criminal syndicate just trying to, rule a galaxy or whatever. Just saying.
He nods. He says, yeah, I agree. Listen, one last thing. How did, you said this was Sleepwell's dad.
Yep.
How did he take it?
Listen, I'm not really one to comment on Sleepwell's state of mind. He and I don't get along. We don't agree on anything. But between you and me, I think he took it pretty hard. I think he said his family is involved in some way. I don't know, based on what we saw. Be kind to the kid. He deserves it right now, because I think he just lost all of his family.
And he nods slowly and he says, yeah, losing family is one thing. Losing yourself is another. I hope that he manages to hold on to himself over this next few cycles. None of this is going to be easy.
Anything that we find at that station that's going to help him fix Alfred, who is his pet project, it's probably going to make all the difference to him. That and finding out if his family's alive. If you have any spare cycles, man, I would love to get the kid some information about his whereabouts of his family, because right now dear old dad is kind of indicating that they're all dead.
He nods slowly and he says, "It's a big galaxy, but I'll do what I can."
You're the greatest hacker in the galaxy, or at least in this sector. Come on. How hard is it?
He nods and he starts to leave the bridge, and then he looks over his shoulder and he says, "I don't know. How hard is it to meet something out of history, then have it vanish, and then give up control of a station?"
Not that hard, apparently. We just been a part of it, buddy.
He nods and he says, "Good. I always wanted to be a part of history." And he kind of rolls his eyes and leaves the bridge. At this point, I want to jump back down to Sleepwell and ask Sleepwell what he is doing now that he's had a chance to go through more with Alfred.
Just more. So I sent that message to everybody, right? And I guess.
Yep.
I thought what you were saying is like my message.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
arrived.
right. You're right. And the message came through. Yes, thank you for the reminder. So then when the message came through, so he ends up leaving the bridge, and then that's when the message comes through. Kaz, you have not left the bridge yet?
I had.
Okay.
During that whole conversation between Armis and Abraxas, I had left.
Okay, so I think I'm just gonna have the thing come through where you're able to pick up on it, because it's on the intercoms just for the four of you, so you're all able to hear it anyway. So this is when, as you are having left the bridge and Aramis is on the bridge, you all pick up on the message that Sleepwell sent.
All right.
So I can, basically repeat it.
Why don't you do that?
It's just like, guys, we're gonna need somebody who can hack into an AI in a major way, ASAP. Alfred is not well. I know it's not exactly what I said, but work with me here. And then as I think about it a moment, I say, "Hey, is Abraxas there? Maybe he could help us out here."
He just left the bridge, buddy. I'm not sure where he's headed.
I don't think we told him about Alfred, though.
He knows about Alfred.
I think he knows about Alfred now.
So, that was an out of character laugh.
So why don't you ask him then? I'm heading to the bridge. I'm trying to get us out of here.
Yeah, don't let him
not the
leave.
bridge, the engineering room.
Don't let him leave. We need him like stat, like Aramis. You know how you're always worried about, maybe Alfred's gonna blow up. Well, look, buddy, there's a sector here I can't get into and I don't want to touch because I'm not good enough. I need somebody who's really good to take a look and see what's going on here. This is like emergency number 1.
You hear Aramis just silently say, "Shit." And he chases after Abraxas after he's left the bridge.
Okay.
And I go to find him and bring him to Sleepwell as quickly as possible.
Okay. So you kind of, I would say that when you get that message, Abraxas was heading out towards the airlock, but you do manage to find him, I would say, and bring him back. How much do you tell him, Aramis? Or how much does anyone tell him, I should say?
I convey, listen, this day's about to get even more weirder. And I realize that after our conversation, whole 33rd conjunction thing, I get it all. Remember that I said it's all kinds of coincidences in weirdness, right? I get another one for you. I need you to come and actually, come with me back to talk to Sleepwell in the med bay. I have one more thing to show you.
And Abraxas shrugs and says, all right.
And I lead him back there.
Okay. When you get back to the med bay, Kaz, are you also going to make your way to meet up with Sleepwell at the med bay?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. So when you all arrive, Sleepwell, you were there with Alfred, who's currently in the sleep mode that you put him in. And all of you kind of enter into the med bay. Abraxas is, you notice Sleepwell is with Aramis, and probably a few seconds later, maybe a minute later, Kaz shows up.
So, at this point, I say, Abraxas, I would like you to meet Alfred. Alfred, wake up, please.
And Alfred just, yes, Creator. And Abraxas kind of like studies him, his eyes narrow a little bit.
Told ya.
So, Abraxas, you know that Alfreds are part of the requirement for the proper running of a ship like the Hyperlance, correct?
He nods. That's the rumor, but I didn't know that they were supposed to be a combination of AI and kind of points to the blades and sort of metal body, the weird sharp-bladed body of the of Alfred, and says that they were supposed to look like this.
This is an atrocity committed onto this poor creature, but it is an Alfred. Right now, it's probably our best chance to be able to even run the Hyperlance properly. But you see, there's a bad sector in here, or a sector that's allowing it to be controlled by something else. I was able to find it. I can show you where it is, but I can't look inside it, not without putting everybody at risk. Basically, we need to know what's in there. More importantly, we basically need to be able to give this Alfred autonomy. It's being controlled from a distance. I'm not sure how the power source works or how any of this is working right now. All I know is that this Alfred is in danger, and if it's in danger, everyone on Pelseros is in danger as well. Can you get in there?
And he nods slowly and he says, I can certainly try, but I'm working in the dark here. There's no way this is a standard model. And I don't know what protocols were put in place or fail-safes for somebody fumbling about like I'm going to be.
Wait, did I hear you correctly there? Did you just say that you've worked on an Alfred before there?
And he says, not on an Alfred. I've worked on an AI, though, and I've seen many examples of things that are supposed to lead up to them. Alfreds, though, they're the jewels, right? All the Alfreds supposedly are the ones that are the hardest to work on and the most advanced in terms of AI. And there's something about them in the ships, but it's not clear as to what they do or how. It was a closely kept secret, but yes, I've done a little work on AIs, and I can try to do that here as much as I can.
You are aware of how volatile they are, too.
And he sort of looks curiously at Alfred, and he says, what's your primary function? And Alfred sort of tilts its head and then says, I do not need to answer questions from any but the Creator.
What is your primary function, Alfred?
And it says, my primary function is to coordinate neural networks, to run components of ship processes, and to destroy enemies of the Creator. Additional protocols are unclassified, blank, classified, and then stops. And Abraxas kind of looks at you, Sleepwell, and kind of raises an eyebrow. Does he always talk like this?
Well, The question is more, should he talk like that? And the answer is no. There shouldn't be anything off limits to its own self, and that's what I want to fix.
He says, so there's something inside this thing that you can't access.
I'll show you where it is.
You realize that if I try to find this thing that you're not supposed to access, only fate only knows what it is I'm going to be letting loose if I do things the wrong way.
Well, that's why I've got you here. You're the expert at hacking. You know how to approach these things so that that doesn't happen.
He nods slowly and he says, all right. I'll need access to his internal memory banks then.
That's what I'm here for. Alfred, you are going to cooperate with Mr. Abraxas here, who's going to help you get better. Okay? Whatever he asks you to do, pretend like I had asked you.
I will cooperate, Creator.
It's a lot of power, Sleepwell. Be careful, buddy.
Yeah, that's a little. Why don't we just? Can we, maybe retract to just like, maybe like just accessing this specific problem and not, not have access to like destroying our entire ship.
He turns around, he's like, please annihilate all the enemies. Like, yes, man.
Yeah, and that's how we all died.
Abraxas, listen, buddy. We just executed a revolution with you. No offense, but we just want to make sure that. I hate to say it.
Quickly retract the statement and just say, let him have access to your memory functions.
Very well, Creator. And Abraxas nods and begins to sort of look at him. And he takes out some kind of portable thing that he holds in one hand and kind of almost looks like a sort of a portable scanner that he kind of runs up and down the body of Alfred, and then gets to one section and types in a couple things next to the med computer, and then looks at his portable thing again, and starts typing furiously on the portable thing, and then says, "You must have seen the same thing I did. There's a whole section of memory here that's off limits, as if it doesn't exist. It's got to be there. Everything else is there but this thing. Whatever this thing is, it holds on to its secrecy. You wouldn't even know it unless you were looking for it, that it was not there."
So let's get in there safely.
He's like, that's the problem. I can get in there, but what I'm going to trigger when I get in there is the issue. What if I create some kind of self-destruct sequence? Something we can't stop. Or what if I do something which causes him to do a full memory wipe, and then you lose any access to him? Functioning in the dark is always a bad idea. Not only am I functioning in the dark, I don't even have any idea what exactly it is I'd be looking for in the light. And he kind of shakes his head and he says, it would be foolish to try to work through it under these circumstances.
So let's change the circumstances. What do we need to do to get access?
He says, you've got to find access to the original person that sealed off this section. The only other thing you can do is a full memory wipe, and that's got risks too. But if you want to keep his memory as is, then you've got to get access information. Think of it like a map. If you've got a map and there's a particular key, you can't do anything with the map until you get the key. That's what we need right now, is the key to be able to get into this sector. Until we're in that situation, we have no idea what this thing is, good, bad, or indifferent.
For someone who says they're a hacker, you're really good at talking about all the reasons you don't want to hack.
The reason I'm such a good hacker, friend Sleepwell, is the fact that I haven't gotten burned by making stupid mistakes all the other hackers made. I am very good, and that means I know my limitations. There are issues here that neither one of us, you nor me, are going to be able to get to without causing problems. I need something that will show me more of the contours of the missing information. And that, and he kind of, sort of raises a finger, he's like, that is one thing that you might be able to find at Hesper Station. at least it ought to be able to give you information about what it is they've been dealing with over the last few weeks. And obviously, this would have absolutely come up. Once you know the contours of that information, then I can probably get us into it. But until they do that, I might be opening a door onto a bomb that's going to blow us all up, essentially.
So, Sleepwell's just kind of like thinking right now, and he's like, is there anything like a Faraday cage on Pelseros? Is there anything that we can use to thoroughly block a signal?
And he says, there's one. It's down in my bar, the place that Petra first found me. And it's as secure a place as I know that exists in the Silrain Arc.
So we've got two problems as far as I can see. One, Alfred is in danger, and if he's in danger, everyone within a quadrant is going to be in danger. But two, we need him to fly. So what I'm wondering is if there's some way that we can seal him away from whatever signals could cause overrides to his commands. We haven't seen overrides yet, but they're ready to happen at any moment. There's a sword of Damocles hanging over us. So what we need to do is isolate him, but we need him on board so that we can run the ship properly. What can we do?
Sleep well. Remember that the ship can run even if we don't have an Alfred. We were able to get all the way here from, Peltavaria?
Peltavaria, that's right. Although there was some navigation problems along the way, if you remember correctly, and we had a little friend that visited us.
But if Abraxas is right and Hespera Station is going to have more information about Alfred, it sounds like we should just try to head there anyway.
Right. My point being that having the Alfred, I mean, again, I'm having difficulty with this particular point, but I agree with Sleepwell. Having him along is going to make a difference unless you want to leave him here in that cage, that secure location where he's not going to receive.
That's not
and
bad.
we actually go and find Leo and get our other Alfred.
Or I was thinking we just leave our Alfred here, go to Hespera, hopefully get information, come back here, and then enact that information. Or do what you said.
It's just that people's brains were being fried trying to wear that helmet without an Alfred here, and we don't know that we'll be able to do it just because we happened to survive last time.
But it sounds like Abraxas needs the key to the map of Alfred's inner workings, and I'm not sure if just blocking the signal of influence that appears to be affecting Alfred is going to be enough for Abraxas to even hack into it. So it sounds like either way we're still missing.
No, it's not so much. Well, we're definitely missing information, but if we can block the signal, we might be able to block out whoever's trying to influence him from afar. And we saw that Alfred can save us from, the shadow technocracy is working, with this conjunctivitis, whatever that has killed my dad. And so now, but Alfred came and saved us. So he was able to defy whatever commands they might have been giving at that time. So there is autonomy here, and we might be able to use him and fly more safely. But if we can block the signal, that'll help guarantee that, he's not taken over at an inopportune moment. He comes with us, we can actually enact the information more quickly because he'll be there with us on the Hespera Station. And then everybody will be better. The only thing is we'll probably need Abraxas with us to actually do the hacking at that point, just because I think he might be the only person we know with the kind of technical know-how.
So, Abraxas, is there a way possibly to make your non-signal location, your safe house, mobile? Is there a way for you to bring that onto the hyperlance or attach a portion of it to Alfred?
And he kind of muses about it and thinks and says, well, there's two different things there. I might be able to bring some material, odds and ends, onto the ship, that would let me do something similar what I could do elsewhere. But as far as connecting it to Alfred, and he kind of sighs and he says, I don't know if that's a wise idea. What happens when you give him direct access to these computer systems?
Hey, may I ask a question? Another question that we need to be thinking about. Sleep well. I get that you want to fix Alfred as quickly as possible, much in the same way that I want him to be as safe as possible. Get all of that. Is there a reason that we shouldn't take him to this Hespera station? Because it sounds like, with all the craziness going on there, if Alfred was somehow to fall into their hands while there, we might lose our advantage. We might lose Alfred. We might lose our ability to control what happens to Alfred. And by extension, all of us, because we'll be vaporized.
The access to the back door will be revoked.
Permanently.
As was said earlier.
It's a matter of figuring out what risks. So we've got to get there. It's harder without a working Alfred. Finding a working Alfred will be difficult, and we've got one possibly working right now. If we can cut off the access, which is why I was asking Abraxas if we could somehow take what they have and maybe bring it on board the ship so that we can protect Alfred, but still have him here working for us. If we take him with us, we always know where he is, too. Aramis, you were concerned about the fact that, maybe the Shadow Technocracy will just come and try to wipe Pelseros off the face of the earth, and then we lose Alfred and everybody along with it. So, we're picking our poison here. And, I think we have the most autonomy and the most chance for success if we, and at this point, he's just kind of trailing off because it's like too much causal logic at the same time. But like, if we, I have to find my family.
Hey, sleep well, buddy.
Where's my mom? My sister, she was trying to protect me that whole time. I can't go to Hespera.
Well, look, sleep well. If we stand any chance of getting to where they are, wherever they happen to be, we all saw that image. Your sister is on some sort of desert planet. We have no idea where that is. That could be on the other side of the galaxy. And trust us, we want to help you help your family almost as much as you do, I'm sure. But in order to do that, we are going to need to fix Alfred fully. And I think that information is at Hespera.
Sleepo, did you have any recording devices on your father? Were you recording that experience with him? Do you have any?
No. I mean, the opposite. I used an EMP pulse. I would have wiped anything. All right. So I mean, it's like, I get it. I can be logical. Wari Sleepwell always told me you have to just cut your emotions out of your. That's the first thing a surgeon always does. You cut your own emotions off, and then everything else just becomes simple. Just cutting and sewing. Okay, we'll cut and we'll sew. I think we try to isolate Alfred in a cage, Faraday cage, some kind of cage, something that blocks out the signal. We bring him with us. We go to Hespera. We do the job.
Yeah. If the signal blocker can't be applied directly to Alfred, we could just try to have it on the ship. In general, anything helps.
Yeah. Abraxas, what do you think? Can we do that?
And he sighs and he says, well, I can set up something here. I can try to make one of the rooms in this place be relatively secure. But first of all, the Hyperlance isn't my ship. And secondly, anything that moves, anything that you've got that's mobile, is not going to be as secure as something you can keep in one place. I'd feel better keeping him in my safety zone down in my bar. I'd feel better keeping him down there where we could keep an eye on him.
Where you could keep an eye on him. I know that's your modus operandi, but dude, we need him.
He shrugs and he says, since you're doing a job partially based on what I've asked you to, I won't argue about it. If you need him, you need him. I could try to set something up the best I can. Just be warned, it's jury-rigged, and it's based on my best assumptions. But I could be very wrong, and you could be very much on your own quickly without realizing it. So, if you're willing to take that chance, I'll do what I can here.
So, I'm just looking around at the others.
I think it's ultimately a smarter idea to have him in Abraxas's place, but I also don't trust anyone but us to keep an eye on him. So, if Abraxas can jury rig something and we can just try to get there as quickly as possible. I mean, hey, we're talking about the fact that Alfred's been quote unquote hacked, but really the only problem so far is that Alfred has this stuttered speech, and you don't have access to one specific section of Alfred. Alfred hasn't tried to kill us yet. Alfred hasn't, tried to hack into the ship itself or anything like that. We could try to attach Alfred to the ship now and see if it could drive the ship for us right now. But I guess we just don't know the extent of how much influence these people have over it, and therefore maybe influencing the ship. But I'm willing to just get whatever field blocker we can on the ship and just go while we have the time, while they're also probably scrambling and figuring out what to do themselves.
If they're scrambling and trying to figure it out, they're not going to expect us to hit the station next.
Exactly.
So we should push hard and fast, which means Spender needs to get her repairs done more quickly and potentially go with us.
Yeah.
To help mitigate any potential tactical problems we're going to be running into with the ship while we're en route. I hate to say it, but I agree with Sleepwell. We need Alfred more than he is a danger to us right now. If the goal is to do this fast and be done as as safely as possible, relative safety aside. So I think Sleepwell, we need to bring him.
It's something that we could hopefully do, depending on what information we manage to heist from the station. We may be able to make our Alfred autonomous, as you say. There's a lot of danger in that, but at that point, then we would basically have the full capabilities of this ship and go wherever the heck we wanted to go. Right from the station, not having to worry about getting back.
Yeah.
So I have a meta question real quick.
Okay.
This station, this Hespera station, it's halfway across the Silverane Arc in the area of Pelseros. Is that correct?
It actually orbits near. Again, now this is based upon information that you've gathered. You've obviously never seen it, because it's in the middle of this ancient ship graveyard, and it operates near Silverane Prime. So, as we pull up that map for everyone to look at.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were going halfway across the.
Yeah, not so much.
Oh,
Pelseros
yeah,
is
not
right
that
here,
far.
and
Okay.
this is Silverane Prime right here.
Right, totally. Okay. All right, then that totally mitigates the thought process I was actually going through with that. So I'm good.
Okay. So Abraxas nods and he says, all right, it's fair enough. I'll try to do what I can to set up something that will allow you to sort of deal with him in the short term. But I want you to know that I'm dealing with technology that's beyond my general understanding, at least in terms of the person that hacked this. And if it's the same person who also managed to let the security cameras be blank for that period of time, and also managed to do all the other stuff that he did to the defense systems of this ship, apparently, then he shakes his head and he says, I'm good. I'm not that good. But I agree with you that there doesn't seem to be much of a different solution. One thing I would suggest, though, and he kind of looks back at you, Sleepwell, and he says, I know that this thing means a lot to you, but I hope you realize that you have no idea before you met this thing what its history was. And if there is something that it's been modified to deal with, that thing could be sprung upon you and everyone else at any time. So I'd be careful about the trust game, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm ready to go. I've been ready. I'm gonna go check on Spindra and get us out of here.
I'm
Like
gonna
I
go
said I
get
was
a
going to.
drink.
Can you, Artemis, can you see if the replicators can make that special Bellare energy drink that I had that one time?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Do you want something that causes a little bit of intoxication as well with that?
Yeah, that causes a little bit. Sure. I think it already was. All right, Sleepwell, are you okay for the time being? This is all without even speaking about what just happened with you.
I mean, I think I'm just gonna go grieve over the death of my father, and I'm going to worry about my family.
All right.
Hey, Abraxas,
Yeah,
remember that little thing I asked you for?
he nods.
Can you do me a favor and get started with that, buddy, as quickly as possible?
And he nods again. He says, all right, now I hope that this time when I leave this room, I'm not going to have someone else running after me in the next 5 seconds telling me about some other problems. None of you have been visited by angels recently, have you?
Not yet,
No.
buddy, but we're working on it. I guarantee that we're gonna get so liquored up tonight that even the gods won't be able to ignore us.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. Nothing better before setting off on a journey than making sure that one is completely incapable of piloting the ship to get us on it. And he kind of sighs heavily and then turns around and departs. Kaz, when you go to check in on what's going on in the engine, you can see that that Spindra and her people have apparently gotten a lot of things working. You can actually even see that the efficiency of the Hyperlance's engines, based upon just sort of sensor readings, are way up. And that they have managed to figure out a way to essentially shunt some of the material of the sorium basically into the engines directly, bypassing some of the safety systems, they tell you, but basically bypassing it to increase efficiency and sort of reduce
all
kind of
this
decay of
jargon
the sorium.
that is, yeah, Spindra sounds good. Okay, good. I'm
Right.
just checking that.
So she basically gives you the idea, but the impression that you get is that it is, in fact, that the Hyperlance is reasonably space-worthy by the time that they're done. Again, how it will hold up under the rigors of space travel and the stresses of space travel, you don't know, but certainly enough to be able to leave, you think, and go to where you were planning to go.
All right. I go over the intercom between our party members and say, all right, well, looks like Abraxas left to go get his things, I guess.
Rule the station.
Oh, yeah. Well, isn't Abraxas coming back to jury rig something on the ship? You're still muted,
Sure, but he's actually going to he's now become the big boss on the station. So just remember that when we come back, we have to actually, tithe and do all that sort of like ceremony.
Sure, whatever. But he's going to be coming back before we leave, though, to jury riggers. Okay.
Yep.
Also, given there's a very loose government here, we could probably even just undock the hyperlance and just fly right over to his place. I don't know. We don't need to do that. But anyway, we're ready to go. I think the last thing though, between us, Sleepwell and Armis, Petra, is we have about 30 new people on the ship. And I'm not sure if all of them are gonna want to go to sit near Silrain Prime and, go into a secret research station or be near a secret research station with a giant deadly robot on board. Not talking about me, by the way.
You're a robot?
No, it's people often mistake me for being one because of the suit and everything.
But you got this nice shiny
yeah,
star.
Yeah, and I can change the colors and make it, like almost like I'm like a light fixture or something. But no, it's not.
How are you even talking to us? I mean, really, what is this?
I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like maybe I think my suit has this thing where it interprets the jiggles of my celestial form, and sometimes, most of the time it works. Other times I
jiggle
try
in
to,
there.
Yeah,
this is really just no. I'm sorry.
I mean, well, okay, for my people, the word is a lot more important than it is in your culture, because I think, when you guys talk about something jiggling, it's like, oh, this benign little thing. It's like for us, that's like the word.
Who are you calling little, buddy?
Anyway, we can talk about the inner anatomy of Bellaria some other time, but the conclusion is that you can understand me, and what I'm saying is we need to get the hell off of this station. And at some point, I think once Abraxas is done his jury rigging and everyone is ready to go, we need to go over the comms of the whole ship and deliver a bit of a captain's message, I would say, and what? Huh?
No, to deliver a captain's message, we need a captain. I nominate Petra.
I think that's a great idea.
She has a hammer. People like hammers.
And she also mentioned having some sort of weird, spiritual bond with the Hyperlance or something.
And she might be some kind of ancient hero reborn or something. I think it's her.
Sounds about right. So, sure. All right. We'll talk to her when she feels a little bit better. I know that last battle has taxed her a bit. She's been pretty quiet, but you can.
It's been a while, just kind of like really taking it all in,
Yeah, of course.
Can we just vote vote Kat as captain in absentia?
Yeah.
All in favor.
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, "Oh, what happened while I was gone?" Well, we're bringing the Alfred over to the space station. We have 30 crew members on the Hyperlance. You're the captain of the Hyperlance.
You're the captain.
Right.
Oh, and they restocked all the alcohol.
Vote Petra as captain.
Oh my god.
So, we got some work to do, but let's all go have a drink. And god damn it, we need to talk to Rona. I hope she's okay. We haven't connected with her. Cause out.
Please tell me you said peace somewhere in there.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace.
So, as you go to get your drinks to prepare before you set off on your trip to the Hespera, the crew starting to get settled in. One note that I want to make: Rona is moved to the medical bay, vaguely under your care. I guess I would say sleep well, assuming that you're okay with that. She is at the moment in what seems to be some kind of a basically controlled coma. Not unusual, that when someone has gone through a great deal of trauma, that the body basically takes a little extra time to heal. So in a way, this is not the worst thing in the world, but it does mean that she's not immediately accessible to you. You would expect that that she'll come out of this coma in a couple of days, but probably not the safest thing to do to wake her up right now. Although she doesn't seem to be in any immediate danger, but that's what you currently know about that situation. So as she's in the medical bay and you were attending to her, and everyone goes off to get their drinks, we see the sort of scene, the camera, right, cuts to the outside as Braxis sort of lugs in several rolling cabinets basically onto the ship, and does a bunch of sort of hammering adjustments, welding, things like that, with this system that he's kind of putting in place, and sort of makes sure that he makes little notes about this stuff up towards the top of several doors, and sort of puts in this very, sort of, it's not, how do I put it? It's not obviously visible, but it's stuff which clearly would not normally belong in the ship that he's obviously adding on to it. Again, this is not being secretive. This is, it seems to be having done this under, someone may have suggested that he do it. So, he's kind of adding all these things in these sections. And when he finishes with the last one, and he hears sort of the laughter of the crew coming from the galley where all of you are either grieving, drinking, trying to come to terms with everything that's happened one way or the other, he sort of shakes his head and he looks up at the kind of blinking things that he's installed above several of the doors, and he says, I hope to all the hells that this thing works. And somewhere in the bay, the medical bay, Alfred sort of tilts his head several times as if perhaps hearing something. And that, I think, is where we will bring the session for tonight to a close.
Damn it!
So,
Terror.
as we closed into 12:30, this was great, guys. Really, really so happy that we could get back on the horse to do this, because I'm very excited for the Esper station. And by the way, the title, I will tell you, of the adventure that you folks are moving into, that you're transitioning into, is called The Long Winter. And man, it's gonna be it's gonna
get Game of Thrones in here.
Game of Thrones.
I was gonna say, the winter is coming?
Winter is coming.
I was gonna say that as soon as you said that.
If that is the gift that keeps on giving. It's just gonna be
Alfred was like, winter. I was literally about to unmute and say, is coming.
It's coming.
But...
Yeah, exactly. Note. But this was a lot of fun. I will start as usual with the gentleman on the right side of the screen. Zach, good stuff from Kaz today. I really enjoyed that last kind of. I also, two things. One, I really enjoyed the last sort of, not a speech exactly, but it's like, look, here's what I know, kind of laying out, what people needed to realize for why, Kaz wants to do what he wants to do. And secondly, I wanted to give you credit for being very consistent about the fact that Kaz wants out, like not out of the party, wants out of the station. He's like, we got to go and deal with crap, basically. So I like the fact that Kaz was sort of asserting himself in that way. How'd you feel about tonight? And as always, how did you feel about tonight, and where will the fine folks see you next?
I felt really awesome and happy to get back into it. It's kind of like this second life that you come back to once a month, and you struggle to remember what happened the last time, and then you start to slowly get back into it. And then once you're in, you're like, okay, here's all these imaginary problems and situations that we have to resolve. And it's a refreshing exercise in collaboration.
Yeah. Twice a month if we can. I mean, that makes that problem a little bit easier. That makes it a little bit easier, but yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm again always excited to see where it goes. It's twice a month, just checking in and seeing our space people going on their adventures.
Yeah. And
I'm excited to see where it goes. And then people on the internet will be able to find me. Of course, here on this channel, I'm in the Our Vocalists and on Esper Genesis here. So whenever that happens over the next few weeks / months. And I do have my own streaming channel, which I will be getting back to soon. And aside from that, life is good. Taking walks, enjoying nature, the usual Bob Ross things that I do.
Happy little trees,
Yes, happy little trees. So yeah, I'm good. It's been a pleasure.
Good stuff, man. And you leveled up to 5 with everyone else, did you or not?
I don't think I did yet.
So just keep that in mind, because I'd like you to at least roll maybe your hit points, because I think everyone else did that. You did not, and you'll have to double check and let me know what other cool stuff you get at level 5, because the rest of them did that last month. So
Does our proficiency bonus go up to 3 plus 3? I forget.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I believe so. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
I
Okay.
believe that is the case.
Cool.
Yes.
Spicy. I'll do that right now.
As
With
you were
some
doing that,
spicy meatballs.
I will say thank you. Good stuff as always from Zach, and yes, you will see him in those various places. Moving right along. So Carlos, yeah. So Sleepwell met his dad, and it's kind of all a mess, really. As the prodigal, I guess this is the prodigal dad, not the prodigal son. But yeah, things are kind of messed up at the moment. Again, as per usual, you did very well in sort of playing out Sleepwell's reaction. I found that fascinating. How did you? What did you think about tonight? And where will the lovely people see you next?
Oh man, so it's always just like supremely satisfying when a GM takes your backstory seriously, because it's like I didn't know a lot about Esper Genesis when I first got involved in the game. I just kind of like quickly read through the rules and drew up a character, but I really like the concept of the character, and because it's a new role-playing system, it was like, oh well, here's this society that does this thing. First of all, let me build against it, because that's what I like to do with a character. So like to give them some place to go, and then it's like, okay, well, what happened? And so I get to build a little bit of the Valna culture and this kind of like this idea of like these mores that they have, and not done, but just taking that slant and then to see it get integrated back in, and so shockingly, so basically I got to sort of like include all of this backstory that I just had waiting all of these weeks, so supremely satisfying, delicious. Thank you so much. Yeah, tons of fun. And I think Sleepwell is always alternating between sort of like being sort of like a medic who's just sort of like has to get shit done, being a teenager who just wants to find out who he is and then actually get to be that person, and then just kind of an asshole in general. So like that tripartite character came together very well, I think, in this episode.
The good tri combo, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, cannot wait to play again. Cannot wait. August is going to be a busy month for me. I'm going to be traveling to Connecticut and Rhode Island to celebrate the launch of my wife's book. Going to be going to Worldcon to celebrate all sorts of fun things and to see Ireland for the first time. I am going to be ticking away on my book, and you'll find me just on the interwebs, on Twitter, and here again when we play again.
Good stuff, Carlos. Always a pleasure. Yeah, again, I always enjoy playing out backstory. Petra, of course, we've had some of as well. The time for Aramis has got some and is going to get more, and the time for both Aramis and Kaz. Winter's coming, so is their time coming. There will be more. There will be more that will be developed. But yeah, anytime I get backstory, I love to work it in. In fact, because I had all of the names that I was actually like privately messaging Carlos. I'm just like, this was this person, right? Like I wanted to make 100% sure. I'm like,
you were right on though. You had everybody lined up.
All right, good. I'm glad I did, because I was like, the worst thing would just be like this person. You're like, that's actually my hated cousin, second time removed or something, I'll be like, oh, okay. This is not that one, you moron. No, but I'm glad it worked out, and thank you, Carlos. It was very awesome, and I cannot wait to see more about that, and see what happens when you meet dear old dad again, whenever that happens. Moving right along, of course, I can't wait to have Cat Rambo back with us again as well. That was the only thing that was too bad, because it would have been lovely to see how this happens. I love the fact that she's going to get back, and you guys are going to be like, so Captain. And she's going to be like, what? And you'll be like, yeah, so...
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Captain Sinis. So anyway, I can't wait to see her reaction.
That's got a ring to it.
It does. I mean, listen, Captain Petra Sinis is a goddamn top quality. That is a top tier name. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah. Well, she's writing the book now, so we had to make her captain.
I
right?
know. Yeah, no kidding, right? Like, that's true. That's true. Like, all of a sudden, you're like, wait, she's not going to be using it properly. It is. I love that idea, because it is interesting to sort of see how that story wanders. Maybe we will get, 20 years from now, an awesome trailer that will reflect. It'll just say Sinis, right? And it'll just be like Esper Genesis Sinis. Side note. Oh my God, is that trailer good? If you haven't seen the trailer for Picard, Star Trek Picard, it is so good. Oh man, I'm like, it looks to me like and mostly it's good because you just know that because Patrick Stewart has thrown himself into it, and you're just like, wow, really, really cool. Anyway, I just wanted, since this is a science fiction show, I thought it was worth bringing it up.
Yep.
But you will see Kat, of course, as well on my channel on several occasions, but you should get all of her stuff. She's got that new 3-book deal with Tor and a whole bunch of other things, and she is now no longer president of SIFWA, so she has more time of her own after she gets done with all the conference travel. So, and we will see her also at, she's going to be at Gen Con, I believe, and so I will have a chance to hang out with her there as well. But that is the deal with Kat Rambo. Moving right along, last but certainly not least, Johnny, I also thought that Aramis did a lot of good work today. I really do think, you said this before, and I feel like it definitely feels to me like you've settled into his character quite a bit, where you get a sense of who he is and how he sort of plays nicely off of the rather tightly wound, some of the other members of the crew, particularly Sleepwell, but I mean, everybody has got some of that in there. So I really enjoyed seeing more of that kind of get developed as you're just kind of like, well, great. Like the part where you're sort of explaining things to Abraxas, and you're just kind of like, so, and then it turns out that's his dad, and Abraxas is like, really? I was really enjoying the fact that you were the one trying to interpret that. So how'd you feel about today, and where will the fine folks see you next?
I'm just gonna say, first and foremost, I am really sorry for Sleepwell. I feel for the character a lot right now, and it's a testament to the backstory and the work that the two of you guys came together and building all of that, and how it's being integrated into the narrative is really awesome. So retelling that part is fun to another NPC. Today was great. I thought everybody was fantastic. Missed Kat dearly in this whole thing. I think that would have been another fun sort of element to the interaction. But today was a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to the next sort of adventure, the next story, because it seems like we're finally as a group we're really coming together at a different level of sort of like interaction and commitment.
Agree.
And comfortability. So so the next place you'll see me, I may actually stream on my own channel this weekend. I will be getting back to streaming just like Zach. I know the feeling about being away from it for a while. But the next place you'll more than likely is going to see me is probably on Monday over on Unmade Gaming's channel doing our Scum and Villainy show called Blaze of Glory. And that's been fun and exciting. And then hopefully there'll be an announcement next week. I hope, right? I think we're shooting for next week. Is there an announcement?
Yes, I would say that's true. It depends on how things go over the next few days information that you gather, as it were. But yes, there is an announcement coming that we'd like to be able to make next week, and it involves this channel and it involves Johnny in a certain way. And I will say no more than that, except that you will not want to miss it. So if you I can't even say what I was about to say because I would give it away. You just don't want to miss it.
Yeah, totally. And so that's where everybody find me, and I'm Video Store Cowboy everywhere on the internet. So thanks guys.
Good stuff. And before I let them go, I'll just send out one more throw one more pop to these guys. When Kat joins as well, and the crew of the four of them, I think this is actually rapidly becoming one of the better certainly science fiction role-playing games that I see on Twitch. I think that they've really kind of committed themselves to it, and I think they've thrown themselves into the universe, and this feels very much like its own thing. Like it feels like, we're playing Esper Genesis and we know what that means. I feel like they really have gotten into it. So I want to give you all kudos. Excellent players, and I think you've really settled into a good rhythm, and I have so much good stuff for the story. Even just like, I can't wait to see how you guys handle things with The Long Winter, which I just am in love with that title. I didn't make it, but I'm still in love with it. It's really cool, and I cannot wait to see how you folks do. So chat, can we get some serious love for the amazing crew of Esper Genesis? Thank you so much to Johnny Pittman. We'll talk to Kat Rambo next month. Of course, to Carlos Hernandez and Zach Clay. Wonderful work from everyone. Thanks, guys, and I will see you lovely folks soon.
And thank you, Greg, for
and
excellent
thank you,
DMing.
DM. For excellent DMing.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye for now. All right. That is going to do it for them, and at least for the moment, for me. But it's not going to be permanently for me because I am going to be back here as I transition over. I am going to be back here tomorrow for some awesome Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. So that is going to be happening coming tomorrow night. The plan is to start sometime between 7 and 8 and do a little bit of a mini marathon session there. And then the next time you'll see me after that will be on Tuesday when we will have Adventures in Middle-earth, and that campaign is going great guns as well, so that's going to be awesome. And then after that, when I am back here for Pen and Pixels, I should say, with GOG, playing some Pathfinder Kingmaker. Again, for those of you who may have missed this, that's going to be a shortened session. It's probably only going to go 4 to 6, because after that I have to head out to Gen Con in Indianapolis. The following weekend we'll probably only have one stream. There may be an impromptu one, but in all likelihood just the one stream, and that's going to be on Saturday evening when I live stream the final of the Forbidden Library trilogy, Beyond the Forbidden Library. That's going to be a lot of fun with 6 players in front of a live studio audience, as they say, a live audience, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that'll be happening on Saturday. So we got a lot of that stuff going on. But I'm really, really grateful that I've got so many good campaigns and so many good players. It makes it just really, really easy. So it's going to be awesome. The special announcement is not something I can make yet, Echo, because we don't have all of our ducks in a row. That's the announcement that I was referring to with, that I was talking about with Johnny just now. So hold tight. We will make that announcement soon, very, very soon. Within the next week or so, we will make the announcement, and that will happen. And I don't think I have Coven Guy, so I don't know for sure. It will be 7 p.m. Yeah, 7 p.m., not 7 a.m. So between 7 and 8 p.m. Saturday evening, and then again I'll be back Tuesday at noon Eastern for some Adventures of Middle-earth. So that's what we got looking up. So it's going to be good times. I'm excited. I cannot wait, and I hope that you folks are going to be there just as I will. We are going to be doing a raid, even though we don't have a ton of people on because it is late and all that stuff tonight. And we're going to do a raid which works this way. If you are a sub, if you are not a sub, then you're going to do this, which is the Arvanauts have landed, followed by followed by Twitch raid, lowercase Twitch, uppercase R, lowercase AID. If you are a sub, you are going to do this. Whoopsie. You're going to do this, which is the Arvanauts have landed, followed by Arvany. Yeah, I can spell. There we go. Arvany hype, which is get hype. So you can do that as soon as you are brought over automatically to the Twitch channel that we're going to raid. And just taking a quick look here. Let me just double check and see something here. I just want to double check and make sure as I go through this ad. Okay. Lovely. All right, good. I know exactly who we are going to raid then. But you'll want to stick around for the raid and then head over that. That's going to be awesome. I've heard good things about that new Fire Emblem game, actually, JRab. So I may try that out because anything I can, when I get to play some stuff on Switch, it's always a good thing. Although I did just beat Ascension 1 on Slay the Spire. Not the heart, but I managed to beat the boss, the third act boss, which allows you to move on to the second Ascension with Defect. And I mention that only because I now have about 210 or 211 hours in Slay the Spire, which has now become my most played computer game that I kept track of, like on Steam, is now Slay the Spire. So I've done it, and I did beat the heart on the regular Ascension. So yeah, it's a good game. I really, really do like that game. No problem, Kookie Canuck. I get it, man. Believe me, I get it. I'm tired myself, as you might be able to tell. I've been busy bee. But I want to thank everyone for being here. I do want to remind everybody about ways to support the stream. Check out the YouTube with !ArvTube, the Discord with !ArvCord, the Twitter with !ArvTweets, the website with arvanellarun.com. Please support us with my shop, !ArvShop. You can get merchandise for Adventures of Middle-earth, D&D Infinity and Beyond, and fairly soon Esper Genesis merchandise will be coming there too as well. And then don't forget, of course, !ArvTreon, that's that Patreon, which is currently sitting at $3.29. And last but certainly not least, of course, we've got that sub button right above the video window. Please jump on board and do that, as a few other people have done today. I think we're at about 58, 59 subs, so we're moving in the right direction there, so please consider doing that as well. Also, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already done so, please consider supporting both the Forbidden Library backer kit, and if you type in !Icarus, you'll be able to get the backer kit for Icarus, my graphic novel. That's important because both of those are where you can basically do pre-orders. I'm going to be doing more of that stuff when I talk at Gen Con. We've got a bunch of swag, bookmarks, and postcards and stuff that I'm going to be handing out at Gen Con. Obviously, the book is happening now that it's funded, which is super great. I just had a chat this morning, actually, with Balsteg and Garlic Tofu and Achala, basically most of the creative team, not Chris, but a lot of the creative team of not Chris Suda, but a lot of the creative team of Icarus and Jelinek, and that's all going really well. But anything we can do to sort of broaden things out, look at distribution and stuff like that, is all very helpful. So please consider jumping on board to support that with !Icarus. And again, check out the Forbidden Library backer kit as well, so that you can get some of the awesome adventure, which you will get a taste of next weekend at Gen Con. Otherwise, though, I want to thank everyone for making this an awesome stream. Thank you to my wonderful mods as I try to move my progressive lenses around to try to get a sense of what's looking at them. I think that's right. Like that. Man, it's so weird. It's like a totally different way of seeing. I want to thank my wonderful mods. Thank you to Aridinel, to Dragonspear, to JReb. Thank you to the amazing and awesome subscribers: Aridinel, Dragonspear, Echo Alpha, Nonstop, Ballsteg, Coven Guy, Kooky Canuck, Rock God, Video Store Cowboy, and Right Teach Play. And special thanks there to Video Store Cowboy, Right Teach Play, and of course Zach Clay for their amazing play tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you to and also thank you to Alligator Alley for sponsoring us, by the way. Thank you to another TT viewer. Thank you to Chrono Travis, Commander Roots, Psycho Motion. Thank you to Dr. Ruby X. Thank you to ECAG, Electrical Longboard, Exploded Soda. That's a good name. I hope you like what you saw and heard and will consider following and supporting the stream. Thank you to Fire Snake Aries. Thank you to for the host and the raid as well. Thank you, Fire Snake. I appreciate it, man. Thank you to Host Me Raffle. Thank you to Jagtress Lurks. Thank you to Moobot, I guess. Thank you to Mrs. Dunsel. Thank you to Second Obs. Thank you to Stay Hydrated Bot for always keeping me hydrated. Thank you to you, Christensen. Yeah, it's not the up and down right now, Coven Guy. It's the side to side that's screwing me up, because it's like getting the right sort of look is a little weird. Like that right there looks right. That's sort of, I don't know. I'll get there. I'll figure it out. Thank you to you, Christensen, V&K, Valerian Gamer, Virgo Praz, and West River Rat. That's funny, Aridinel, by the way. Thank you all so much. You guys were great. Thank you so much for the support and chat. And thank you so much again to the amazing players of Esper Genesis. And I can't wait for that story to continue. It's going to be awesome. But that's going to do it for me. Much love to everyone. And I will catch all of you wonderful people soon for tomorrow, actually, for Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. Other than that, stick around for the raid. And I will catch all of you lovely people very soon. Be good to each other. Have a good night.
When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I grew older, I set aside childish ways. Corinthians 13:11. In the distant future, mankind has spread into the stars and found it is not alone. Within the cluster of planets known as the Silrain Heart, many races strive for survival. or supremacy. But throughout this array of planets, societies, and cultures, each has one thing in common. The crucibles. Scattered throughout the galaxy, each moon-sized structure contains a core of raw sorin, a form of mysterious energy used to power ships, cities, and sometimes the warping of the fabric of reality itself. Beings who can do this have been given a name: Espers. The power of God has been granted to God's children. It is a time of terror. It is a time of wonder. It is the time of Esper Genesis.